Chapter 561. The overbearing lightning tribulation descended, but it was not as terrifying as they imagined. They could feel that the arm holding the lightning rod was a little numb. At the same time, a portion of the lightning tribulation landed on their bodies. However, they had already activated their defenses. Their bodies and heads were protected by Dharma treasures. This bit of power did not affect them at all. Perhaps the heavenly Tao knew the situation here, so the following lightning tribulation became more and more ferocious. However, they realized that with this lightning rod, the heavenly tribulation could not do anything to them. After 9 bolts of lightning tribulation, the tribulation cloud unwillingly dispersed. When everyone was baptized by the lightning tribulation, they stared at the lightning rod with a dumbfounded expression. This was a success. They had yet to experience the legendary danger and pain of tribulation transcendence. Tangwa stared at the sky. Just now, she felt a gaze land on her. The other party stared at her with a sharp aura, but for some reason, he quickly retracted his gaze, as if he saw something terrifying. She touched her face. Was it because of her? Or was there something about her that made the other party afraid? She was very familiar with that aura. It was the aura of the heavenly Tao. It was this world's heavenly Tao that was afraid of her. Tongzi, do I have some sort of background? Or am I not a simple person to begin with? Host, did you just realize it? I have long suspected that you have a great background. Tangwa deeply agreed. That's true. I have destroyed so many worlds without any problems. It might really be related to me, but this is not important. Knowing that even the heavenly Tao was afraid of her, she could play however she wanted. She had to slowly pay back the suffering she had suffered during the period of confusion. You succeeded just like that. Mo Yuntian and the other two could not help but ridicule. How could it be so fast? The 3 of them looked at each other and could not help but look at Tangwa. Sister, do you still have that lightning rod? The 3 of them had already passed tribulation transcendence, but this lightning rod was a bit rare, and they wanted to play with one. Tangwa was very generous and grabbed a bunch for them. The 3 of their mouths twitched fiercely as if it was free. All right, since you have passed the lightning tribulation, prepare to ascend. When Feng Failing is going through tribulation transcendence, I will inform you. If there's anything you want to tell the people you care about, just tell them as soon as possible. When the time comes, after you've angered Feng Failing, you can all ascend together. When Yi and the others looked at each other, Gu Qin was the most talkative and outspoken. Master, what about you? When are you going to transcend the tribulation? When are you going to ascend? This was what they had always wanted to ask. Tangwa's cultivation level was high enough to pass the tribulation, but she just didn't do it. This gave them a bad premonition. They felt that they would never see her again after this ascension. Tangwa could feel the most sincere feelings from these people, and she couldn't help but smile. I don't plan on transcending the tribulation. When everyone heard this, they turned pale with fright. However, when they saw that she didn't seem to care, they knew that they couldn't persuade her. No one could change her decision. Master, we will always remember you. Even if they did not meet again, they would never forget her. If fate wills it, we'll meet again. Tangwa remembered that she would travel through countless worlds. Perhaps she would meet an old friend one day. When the disciples heard this, they sighed in relief. Master's words didn't sound like she was planning to die of old age in the cultivation world. 3 years later, Feng Failing became a devil and became like a devil cultivator, eating cultivators to increase his strength. Star Moon's sect also fell from a righteous sect to a devil cultivator sect. Feng Failing led the entire sect to become a devil. Today was the day of Feng Failing's tribulation transcendence. Chapter 562. During Feng Failing's tribulation, the happiest people were none other than those devil cultivators who had been tormented miserably by her. They couldn't wait for Feng Failing to be struck to death by the heavenly tribulation. Even if he didn't die, he should ascend quickly so that she wouldn't stay behind to torment them. Now, they were truly envious of the righteous cultivators who were protected by the devil sect. They also wanted to enter the devil sect. At first, they thought that since they were all devil cultivators, they couldn't just watch them get bullied by Feng Failing, right? In the end, the words of the devil sect's saintess shattered their thoughts. The devil sect would not protect devil cultivators, especially devil cultivators who fed on cultivators to cultivate. According to others, the original words that the saintess had said to them were, "Although our devil sect is also a place for devil cultivators, our three views are relatively righteous and we don't eat our own kind." They didn't know what their three views were, but if demonic cultivators didn't eat cultivators, what else could they eat? Cultivators cultivated the fastest. But Aunt Saintess had said that the devil sect would not protect them, so they did not dare to go. Feng Failing, on the other hand, was somewhat excited. After she transcended the tribulation, she would still not be the master of this world. Tanghua is the saintess of the devil's doctrine. So what? Aunt has long been taken away by her. Her spiritual root has been destroyed. How can it be comparable to her? For so many years, he hadn't heard of any sign of Tanghua's tribulation. Maybe her cultivation hadn't improved at all. Once she was done with her tribulation, it would be a piece of cake for her to kill him. Lung Yiling looked at the gathering lightning tribulation and felt a lingering fear in his heart. He hurriedly shouted, "Linger, are you okay?" "Brother Yiling, don't worry. I'll be fine." The corner of Feng Failing's mouth held a smile. She was 90% certain that she would pass the tribulation. Even if this lightning tribulation looked particularly terrifying, it was nothing to her. She narrowed her eyes and glanced at Lung Yiling's anxious look. She sneered in her heart. Look, this was a man with no principles at all. He clearly knew that she had done a lot of bad things, but just because she had saved his life, he blindly stood by her side. She had long seen through the nature of these men. Just like in his previous life, when he found out that the young lady who brought him out was Tanghua, he followed her closely to protect her. When he found out that the person Tanghua liked was Bai Wuqing, he decided to take a step back and stop thinking about her. Instead, he helped the two of them. After knowing that she, Feng Failing, wanted to harm Tanghua, she wasted her spiritual root without hesitation. She would never forget the pain of having her spirit root destroyed. She lifted her head and looked at the lightning tribulation that was brewing. Then, she looked at Lung Yiling and had an idea. Why don't we use Lung Yiling's corpse to celebrate her success in passing the tribulation? Over the years, she had obtained quite a lot of opportunities. Although the heavens were always targeting her, they did not take care of everything. Occasionally, they would leak out, but she had already gained a lot. Therefore, guiding the tribulation cloud to the top of Lung Yiling's head was a very easy task. When Tanghua, who was hiding in the dark, saw this, she wasn't surprised. She just didn't expect that Feng Failing would plan to bring this matter forward. She wants to. When Imo Yuntian saw this, his expression turned ugly. She wants to guide the lightning tribulation to the top of Lung Yiling's head. Even so, the two of them should be able to pass the lightning tribulation. Ziyun Dao Master rubbed his chin. He didn't quite understand and his eyes narrowed. Could it be that she has another situation? Just watch. When Lung Yiling can't hold on, Brother Imo, you can just throw a lightning rod on top of his head. Imo Yuntian nodded. Even if he didn't want this disciple anymore, he still didn't want to see him die tragically under the heavenly tribulation. Chapter 563. Imo Yuntian just didn't understand why Yiling was so devoted to Feng Failing, but that vicious woman still wanted to kill him. Lung Yiling was also stunned for a moment when he saw the tribulation cloud that suddenly appeared above his head. He could indeed pass the tribulation, but he always wanted to wait until Feng Failing passed the tribulation. Brother Yiling, since the lightning tribulation has already found you, why don't we pass the tribulation together? Without waiting for Lung Yiling to think more, he saw Feng Failing reveal a bright smile at him, which made him forget that something was wrong. He simply jumped to Feng Failing's side, and the two tribulation clouds immediately merged together. Feng Failing took the initiative to hold Lung Yiling's hand and smiled at him. Brother Yiling, let's pass the tribulation together and ascend together. Didn't you always want to be with me forever? After we pass the tribulation, let's leave this place together. I won't care about anything in the future and will only love you wholeheartedly, okay? It had to be said that Feng Failing's display of affection moved Lung Yiling. Even if his temperament was somewhat cold, he was still moved by Feng Failing. Moreover, this was the little girl he had always liked. Even if she became unrecognizable, he still liked her. He liked her so much that he couldn't extricate himself. He didn't even mind seeing her do many things that she shouldn't have done. He once thought that if she turned into a demon, he would turn into a demon. If she went to hell, he would go to prison. The way the two looked at each other affectionately was seen by the devil sect in the dark. Especially Immerse. His expression was a bit indescribable. This Feng Failing used these few sweet words to coax his disciple. Tang's mouth held a smile as she looked at the two loving people with a smile that wasn't a smile. Thinking about what would happen next, her mood was somewhat wonderful. The system looked at the rising energy and was also very happy. Okay. Long Yiling excitedly pulled Feng Failing's hand and hugged her in his embrace. He said with a face full of affection, "I'll protect Ling later. Let's go together. I also want to protect Brother Yiling." Looking at such a pure smile, Long Yiling couldn't help but recall the red-clothed little girl he saw when he opened his eyes. At that time, she also asked him if he was okay. Until now, he still remembered that smile, which really smiled into the bottom of his heart. Rumble the tribulation clouds were almost done brewing. The two of them stopped kissing and held each other's hands as they looked at the terrifying tribulation clouds above their heads. When the first lightning tribulation descended, Long Yiling didn't even think as he protected Feng Failing in his arms. When the first lightning tribulation struck, Long Yiling withstood it with ease. Looking at the sweet face of the woman in his arms, who was smiling brightly at him, he felt satisfied. Brother Yiling, you are such a nice person. Long Yiling had already decided that he would bear the brunt of today's lightning tribulation. Very quickly, the second lightning tribulation descended. Long Yiling was struck until he groaned. Seeing this, Feng Failing dispersed the remaining lightning tribulation and looked at Long Yiling nervously. Big Brother Yiling, I can do it. I'm not weak either. I know, but I just want to protect Ling. Tangwa had a smile on her face as she seriously watched the two of them being lovey-dovey under the lightning tribulation. Bai Wuqing noticed the faint smile on her face and added, I can do that too. Tangwa's genius disciples were a bit speechless. Young Master Bai, you better not confess blindly. Can't you see that Master is mocking the other party? I have a lightning rod. Tangwa's words were shocking. She glanced at Bai Wuqing. It's better than yours. Bai Wuqing touched his nose. That's true. The genius disciples laughed heartily. Chapter 564. During the fifth lightning tribulation, Long Yiling was struck into a very sorry state. His entire body was struck into a large pit. Feng Failing, who was protected in his arms, also fell into the pit. However, Long Yiling had always been protecting her, so she didn't suffer much injuries. The two climbed up from the pit. This time, Feng Failing wouldn't let Long Yiling resist the lightning tribulation alone. After a long time, Long Yiling finally agreed. However, during the sixth and seventh lightning tribulation, he still endured most of the lightning tribulation. His entire body was somewhat charred. He just wanted to endure a little more, so that the last two most powerful lightning tribulation wouldn't hurt his Ling. Brother Long Yiling, you're so good to me. Feng Failing was encircled in Long Yiling's arms. She looked at Long Yiling emotionally. She could already feel that Long Yiling's condition was very bad. He endured the majority of the lightning tribulation for two people. If his mind was in a mess, he would definitely die under the lightning tribulation. Feng Failing's eyes narrowed as he laid in Long Yiling's embrace. A smile hung on the corner of his mouth, and his voice changed a little. Big Brother Yiling, you're so good to Ling. Tell me, how should Ling repay you? As long as Ling likes me, I don't ask for anything else. Ling naturally likes Brother Yiling. I like you the most. Feng Failing raised her head. Her smile was very strange. Even Long Yiling felt that something was wrong. However, he didn't believe that Feng Failing would do anything to him at this time. Feng Failing tiptoed and leaned close to Long Yiling's ear. At the same time, she used her divine sense to pay attention to the eighth lightning tribulation that was about to fall. Seeing that the lightning tribulation was about to fall, she said, I want to tell Brother Yiling a secret. I've wanted to tell you this secret for a long time. Today is the day of our tribulation. If I tell Brother Yiling at this time, you'll definitely never forget it. You'll die with everlasting regret. What secret? Long Yiling quickly ignored the discomfort in his heart and asked while preparing to deal with the lightning tribulation above. Feng Feiling's smile became more and more beautiful. She still leaned close to Long Yiling's ear. Actually, Brother Yiling, the person who brought you to the cave from the Long residence wasn't me. Ling you're joking. Ling stop joking around. Feng Feiling wrapped his arms around Long Yiling's waist. Looking at his incredulous expression, he felt extremely refreshed and continued. You know that person too. Her name is Tangua. Long Yiling's eyes widened. Impossible. Feng Feiling lowered his head and smiled. Tangua didn't steal the sex treasure. I used a secret technique to temporarily control her mind. For this reason, I even paid the price of not being able to make any progress in my cultivation for 3 years. And she has never harmed me. Everything was part of my plan. I wanted you to destroy her spirit root with your own hands. As for the reason behind all this, Long Yiling, let's talk about it after you've passed the last 2 lightning tribulations. After saying that, Feng Feiling pushed Long Yiling away. In an instant, the lightning tribulation above the tribulation cloud struck Long Yiling's body with a boom. Long Yiling stood in the same place, unable to react at all. His mind was in a mess, filled with what Feng Feiling had just said. He really wanted to ask if it was true. He really wanted to say that she must be deceiving him. But Feng Feiling stood far away. He was already submerged by the lightning tribulation and didn't have the chance to ask. Feng Feiling looked at Long Yiling, who was submerged by the lightning tribulation, and laughed crazily. Her mood was extremely refreshed. Soon, she would be able to see Long Yiling, who had turned into charcoal. She wondered if he was still thinking when he died. How could his Ling deceive him? How ridiculous. Chapter 565. Feng Feiling's expression was indifferent. If Long Yiling was struck into dregs by the heavenly tribulation, she wouldn't be sad at all. She would only be happy. She stared at Long Yiling's position and watched as the 8th lightning tribulation gradually dissipated. She originally thought that after the lightning tribulation dissipated, Long Yiling's charred corpse would be left behind. After all, Long Yiling's mind was already in chaos. The 8th lightning tribulation was only second to the strength of the last lightning tribulation. Long Yiling had already endured so much before, so he couldn't bear it anymore. However, the moment the lightning tribulation dissipated, she still saw Long Yiling sitting on the ground in a daze. His eyes were filled with confusion and disbelief. How is this possible? Feng Feiling subconsciously shouted. Her voice was a bit sharp. The words she said must have impacted Long Yiling. Logically speaking, he shouldn't be able to bear it at all. Why? Why was Long Yiling still sitting there unscathed? Long Yiling, who was in a daze, didn't expect that he wasn't struck to death by the lightning tribulation and seemed to have survived. He lowered his head and looked at himself, recalling the experience just now. He was indeed drowned by the lightning tribulation, but it seemed that something helped him to bear most of the lightning tribulation and didn't hurt him at all. How can you be fine? Feng Feiling couldn't remain calm at all and blurted out subconsciously. She had already shed all pretense of cordiality with Long Yiling, so there was no need to continue pretending. Moreover, there was still one more lightning tribulation. She didn't believe that Long Yiling could survive the last one. Long Yiling came back to his senses, and his expression was very complicated. He recalled what Feng Feiling said to him just now. He didn't want to believe it, but seeing Feng Feiling's appearance and recalling what she had done before, he had no choice but to believe it. Just now, Feng Feiling really wanted him to die. In her eyes, he didn't see any friendship at all. Other than hatred, there was only hatred. He didn't understand. He didn't understand. Even if she really wasn't the person who saved him, he treated her wholeheartedly. Could it be that she didn't feel anything at all and only wanted to kill him? Linger, you were joking with me before, right? Feng Feiling sneered. Who's joking with you? I can't wait for you to be struck to death by the lightning tribulation. Feng Feiling was completely merciless and stared at the sky. It's a pity that the 8th lightning tribulation didn't kill you. Long Yiling finally admitted that Feng Feiling really didn't like him. He suddenly remembered that the person who saved him wasn't Feng Feiling, but Tangua. His heart couldn't help but sink. The person who saved me back then, it's her. There's no need to ask. You were thrown out by the Long family. She was the one who picked you up. She put you in a cave and left. As for why you saw me when you woke up, I did it on purpose. I wanted you to think that I was your savior. Lung Yiling asked blankly, why? You'll know when you die. Her cold and emotionless words had indeed hurt Lung Yiling. Feng Failing looked at the other party's expression and mocked. Don't tell me that even if you only know the truth, you still quite like me? No. Lung Yiling quickly shook his head. No. How could the truth be like this? How could Linger be like this? She shouldn't be like this. And Tanghua, why was she the one who saved him? If that was really the case, then everything he had done in the past was to harm the person who had saved him with his own hands. You're thinking so much. Why don't you prepare for the last lightning tribulation? Looking at the chaotic Lung Yiling, Feng Failing said in a good mood. However, as soon as she finished speaking, a large group of people dressed in white appeared around her, wearing thin veils and bamboo hats, ruining her good mood. She looked straight at the woman at the front. You heard it? Chapter 566. I heard it, Tanghua replied. She didn't think that Feng Failing would be so impatient. Others hadn't even forced her, but she had already confessed everything. Did she really think that everything would be fine after passing the tribulation? Host, wasn't it you who forced her to be so impatient? Now, she was suspecting that the heavens were targeting her. Otherwise, it wouldn't be smooth for her to do anything. Ever since she went to the demonic cultivator's territory to behave atrociously, there weren't any more problems, so she simply became demonic. No matter how firm a person's temperament was, once they became demonic, their temperament would change. Their temper would be more impulsive and manic than before. Back then, you were the one who took me away from the Long clan. Seeing Tanghua appear, Lung Yiling couldn't wait to ask. That pleading look seemed to be telling her that this must be fake, right? Mo Yuntian's expression was a bit complicated. No wonder the campus belle didn't like this guy. It turned out that there was such a relationship. This foolish disciple of his had recognized the wrong person from the start, creating an ill-fated relationship with Feng Failing. It wasn't you, right? Lung Yiling didn't wait for Tanghua to reply, and said anxiously. Tanghua lightly curled her lips. I don't remember. Lung Yiling's heart sank, and he didn't dare to look at her eyes. Actually, Feng Failing's performance could already prove that the other party wasn't lying. It was just that he didn't want to believe that he recognized the wrong person. Not only did he recognize the wrong person, but he also hurt the person who really saved him. For a person who wanted to harm them, he escorted them all the way and didn't hesitate to do something that went against his principles. For Feng Failing, he left the demonic sect, left the master who treated him the best, personally crippled the spirit root of his savior, and did who knows how many crazy things for Feng Failing. If anyone dared to bully Feng Failing, he would cripple them if it was light, and take their life if it was heavy. He looked at the tribulation clouds in the sky in a daze. At this moment, he had a heart that didn't want to resist. If he was really wrong, then let the tribulation lightning strike him to death. Let his life be the atonement. Tanghua saw through his thoughts. It wasn't strange at all. Lung Yiling was a very conceited person. He didn't want to admit his mistakes, so he chose to escape. Feng Failing didn't care about that anymore. Right now, she was going to pass the tribulation. After she passed the tribulation, everyone would know what she did. So what? If she couldn't stay here any longer, she would go to the celestial world. There would be a place for her. She didn't believe that Tanghua would dare to come in and stop her from transcending the tribulation. If she attracted a large number of lightning tribulations, everyone would die. And judging from Lung Yiling's appearance, he probably wouldn't make it. Lung Yiling didn't miss the joy in Feng Failing's eyes. His heart was completely cold, and he was even more unwilling to resist the lightning tribulation. The moment the lightning tribulation was about to descend, Tanghua's gaze turned towards Wen Yi and the others. Her pleasant voice rang out, Feng Failing, in order to celebrate your tribulation today, I spent more than 10 years preparing a big gift for you. Seeing that the last lightning tribulation was about to descend, Tanghua's voice almost made Feng Failing's mouth crooked. She said disdainfully, Don't try to influence my mind. I won't fall for it. I know that you're a person with a firm temperament. As someone who has been reborn, you naturally won't be easily influenced, right? The word reborn had already caused Feng Feiling's expression to change greatly. He stared at Tanghua in disbelief. You. Feng Feiling's heart was in chaos, but she felt the pressure coming from above. She quickly gathered her thoughts. She couldn't be fooled. She definitely couldn't be fooled. You want to mess with my mind? Impossible. Tanghua lowered her head and smiled gently. I already said that you're a person with a firm temperament. You won't be swayed so easily. Before transcending the tribulation, take a look at the gift I've prepared for you. Chapter 567. Feng Feiling told herself over and over again that Tanghua was here to effect her tribulation. She absolutely couldn't be fooled. She barely suppressed her beating heart and prepared to deal with the tribulation lightning. Suddenly, a gentle voice sounded in her ears, causing her expression to change greatly. Feng Feiling, look at who I am. Feng Feiling subconsciously looked towards the source of the voice. Among the group of white-clothed people, there was a graceful figure. She took off her bamboo hat, and a devastatingly beautiful face appeared in front of Feng Feiling's eyes. Feng Feiling was so shocked that she took a few steps back. You? How are you still alive? Feng Feiling couldn't believe it. She personally saw Pei Shui's soul being scattered by the devil cultivators. How could she still be standing there perfectly fine? Pei Shui had a faint smile on her face. Are you surprised that I'm still alive? You slandered me for having thoughts about Long Yiling and even damaged my reputation. You colluded with the devil cultivators to set me up for eternal damnation. I, Pei Shui, have never done anything to let you down. Feng Feiling, why are you treating me like this? That's because you deserve it. Feng Feiling completely forgot about the current situation and subconsciously roared. You deserve it. You deserve it. Back then, when she was being toyed with by the devil cultivators, Pei Shui and Ji Qingshan next door were still loving each other all day long. They didn't even think of saving a pitiful little girl like her. Therefore, Pei Shui deserved it. Feng Feiling, take a look at who I am. Gu Qin took off her bamboo hat, revealing her charming face in front of everyone. Seeing Feng Feiling's puzzled expression, she kindly explained, I'm called Gu Qin, a 5-element spiritual root. Although she didn't know why her master wanted her to introduce herself like this, when she saw Feng Feiling's expression change, she understood that this was very important to Feng Feiling. How is this possible? Feng Feiling's heart was in a mess, and she couldn't calm down. Feng Feiling, my name is Wen Yi. Feng Feiling, my name is Feng Feiling. The familiar names of geniuses rang in her ears. Feng Feiling seemed to have fallen into a spell. She painfully covered her head. She worked so hard for so long to cut off the opportunities of these geniuses, not giving them the chance to grow. There were even some people who had been secretly plotted against by her and lost their cultivation. They were crippled and had their arms and legs broken. Why were these people still standing in front of her? Suddenly, she thought of someone. She stared at Tanghua's position and said with a ferocious expression, It's you. It's me. You too. Feng Feiling couldn't help but admit that for Tanghua to know his identity as a reincarnator, it was very likely that she was also a reincarnator. She suddenly felt that the heavens were really unfair. It was one thing for her to be reborn, but why did they have to let her enemy be reborn as well? Even after being reborn, she still couldn't compare to her enemy. It turned out that she was really being targeted by the heavens. Tanghua shook her head gently. I'm not. She was indeed not a reincarnated being. Obviously, Feng Feiling didn't believe it. Rumble the lightning tribulation had already successfully condensed and was rumbling above his head. Feng Feiling had already calmed down. No matter what, she could not die under the heavenly tribulation. I won't let you have your way. Her expression was solemn as she prepared to deal with the last lightning tribulation. The moment the 9th lightning tribulation submerged Feng Feiling and Long Yiling, Tanghua's voice was clearly transmitted to Feng Feiling's ears. It wasn't for her, but for Wen Yi and the others. All right, you guys can begin to ascend. In an instant, Feng Feiling's eyes widened as she looked at the group of people in white releasing their cultivation. Even she was affected by their powerful aura. Looking at their smiles as they ascended, she was so angry that she spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 568. By Wuqing, I'll lend it to you. Bai Wuqing suddenly heard Tangwa's words and was stunned for a moment. Then, he became ecstatic and quickly walked out from the crowd, revealing his true face. He came to her side with a gaze full of affection. Xiaoguo, how do you want to use it? Tangwa looked at Bai Wuqing with a smile. You're so happy to be used by someone? Because this person is Xiaoguo. Bai Wuqing answered straightforwardly. From the moment he understood, he was firm in his thoughts. Even if there was no result, he was willing to persevere. Tangwa smiled lightly. You're quite good with words. Feng Failing had been paying attention to the existence of these two people. Even when he was engulfed by the lightning tribulation and his body was in intense pain from the lightning tribulation, it was not as dazzling as the scene in front of him. I just want to ask you a few questions. Xiaoguo, feel free to ask. Tangwa glanced at Feng Failing's position, and the corner of her mouth rose slightly. She did not have much experience in angering her opponent to death for the first time, but looking at Feng Failing's situation, it should be considered a success. When did you start to have feelings for me? Was it before or after I left Star Moon's sect? Before. Feng Failing spat out another mouthful of blood. It was impossible before. Didn't Bai Wuqing hate women who played tricks with him the most? Tangwa smiled and brushed her messy hair behind her ear. Then I'll have to scheme against you. If I can be schemed against by Xiaoguo again, I'm willing to do it. PFFF, Feng Failing spat out another mouthful of blood and looked unwillingly at the two who were chatting happily. She had schemed so much just to make Bai Wuqing hate Tangwa. That high and mighty person actually went against his principles for Tangwa and liked someone who was full of schemes. Then what was she? No matter what kind of person Xiaoguo is, I'll like him. Perhaps Bai Wuqing realized that this was his only chance to express his feelings. Even if Tangwa had already made it clear to him that she was just borrowing him this time, he was still willing to do it. He was also very willing. He was not afraid of being used by her, but he was afraid that she would not use him. He was afraid that she would ignore him and use him. At least he was still useful to her. Feng Failing looked at Bai Wuqing's affectionate appearance and seemed to recall his previous life. The other party had also protected Tangwa with such affectionate feelings. Looking at the group of ascended people around him, he could no longer calm down. She glanced at Long Yiling, who was also engulfed by the lightning tribulation, and smiled. At least there was one person who would die with her. She gritted her teeth. If she could be reborn again, she would do it more decisively and not leave anyone a way out from the beginning. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Long Yiling stood up. He looked at the lightning rod above his head and was a little stunned. Let's get through the lightning tribulation first. It was Imo Yuntian's voice. Yiling, if you really want to die for Feng Failing, I won't stop you. Long Yiling looked at Feng Failing's appearance and then looked at Imo Yuntian's worried expression. In the end, he stood there and silently endured the remaining lightning tribulation, not caring about Feng Failing. When Feng Failing thought that she and Long Yiling were going to be struck to death and her consciousness dissipated, Long Yiling was actually still intact. She unwillingly dissipated from the world and let out an unwilling scream. Long Yiling clearly heard Feng Failing's last sentence. It was said to him, if I had known, I would have killed you in the cave. After the lightning tribulation dispersed, Long Yiling's neck felt cold. Chapter 569. Feng Failing was killed by the heavenly tribulation. Long Yiling successfully passed the heavenly tribulation and returned to the devil sect. He locked himself in his room and never came out. Other than the area of demonic cultivators, almost all the sects lived in peace under the rule of the devil sect. Everything was developing in a good direction. Tangwa's genius disciples all ascended together. Only those who saw the spectacular scene that day understood what it was like. But other than those who knew, no one knew that these geniuses ascended with only one purpose, to anger Feng Failing to death. Feng Failing was indeed angered to death by them. If they didn't appear, Feng Failing probably wouldn't have been killed by the heavenly tribulation. After Feng Failing's death, the Star Moon sect was in turmoil. The sect master of the Star Moon sect, Wenzichio, died in a very strange way. After someone checked, they found that Wenzichio had been controlled by someone. In other words, the orders he gave were most likely controlled by Feng Failing. The Star Moon sect declined without any surprise. Mo Yuntian didn't restore Long Yiling's identity as the young sect master. Instead, he chose a good young man in the sect and supported him as the young sect master. He, Purple Cloud, and Scarlet Firmament had discussed it. After Tangwa left, they also planned to ascend to the immortal world. Big brothers, I plan to leave. The three of them ate the delicacies on the table. For the first time, they felt that the taste was somewhat tasteless. Later, they also asked Tangwa how the world would turn out if she didn't appear. After knowing the truth, they couldn't help but sigh. Especially Purple Cloud. He couldn't help but shake his head. That's really funny. Just because he didn't want to meddle in other people's business, he still has a grudge. He's crazy. Scarlet Firmament also couldn't stand Feng Failing's temper. Pei Shui is still the most pitiful. Fortunately, she thought it through. The result is still not bad. Ji Chengshan is also quite good. When are you leaving? Mo Yuntian asked. Tangwa thought for a moment. In a few days. Sigh, I can't bear to. Ziyun Dao Master sighed. All right, we can't keep you here. When you arrive at a new plane, remember to notify us in the group. Also, don't disappear for years or decades. Occasionally, you should pop up in the group so that we don't worry about you. All right. Tangwa was quite happy to be able to make a few good friends, especially since everyone had a relatively long lifespan. True Monarch Qi Xiao hesitated for a moment before asking, what about Bai Wuqing? Everyone knew that Bai Wuqing was infatuated with their sister. But from the looks of it, Tangwa did not intend to have anything to do with Bai Wuqing. I will bid him farewell. The underlying meaning was that there was no chance. The few of them looked at each other and lit a candle for Bai Wuqing. For the next few days, Tangwa only ate and drank with the few of them. She took out the best dishes and wine to entertain them. The few of them ate happily, but in their hearts, they were reluctant to part with it. After this parting, he didn't know if they would have the chance to meet again in the future. Bai Wuqing seemed to have sensed something. He found a chance to be alone with Tangwa and stopped her. There were some other emotions on that cold face. Xiaogua and Bai Wuqing came in front of her and seriously looked into her eyes, trying to find something in them. I feel that you're going to leave me. He wanted to tell her not to leave, but he realized that he didn't have the right to say that. You have a sixth sense too? Tangwa looked up with a smile. That feeling is quite accurate. Bai Wuqing couldn't help but grab her wrist. He looked a little anxious. Where are you going? Bring him along. He will be obedient. Chapter 570. I don't know where I'm going, so I can't bring you along. Bai Wuqing didn't believe her. She was the one who didn't want to bring him along. He was the one who made a mistake, but she still refused to forgive him. I know you still blame me. Tangwa shook her head. I don't blame you anymore. You've already paid the price. Once I leave this place, all our grudges will disappear. No. Xiaogua, I'd rather you hate me. Tangwa was speechless. I've never hated you. Bai Wuqing was stunned. You're not even willing to hate me? Tangwa, this kind of one-track-minded old man is still single. She complained to the system. System, host, you're bullying him because he can't bring his memories with him. Who knows what he was originally? Maybe he's someone who wants to harm me. System, haha. Bai Wuqing saw that Tangwa really didn't care and finally gave up. Then, before you leave, can I accompany you? Of course. Bai Wuqing heaved a sigh of relief. A smile that was as clear as water floated up onto his face. It was simple and pure, as if he had just obtained some sort of treasure. He consciously let go of Tangwa's wrist and stood beside her. Even if he couldn't accompany her for long, he wanted to be by her side when she was around. He didn't know how she left, but he had a bad feeling about it. For the next few days, wherever Tangwa was, Bai Wuqing would be there. The two of them didn't leave each other's side, and they were even closer than before. This made the disciples of the Devil sect think that a good thing was about to happen. Until one day, they didn't see the Holy Maiden Ant's figure anymore, nor did they see Bai Wuqing. Bai Wuqing felt it one morning. He stood at the door and waited for a long time, but he didn't see any familiar faces. Suddenly, he thought of something. Ignoring her displeasure, he pushed the door open, only to see a lifeless body. In that instant, he broke down. Since the day she came down from Starmoon Sect, this was the closest he had ever come to contact with her. He hugged her, cold body. He couldn't find her soul. He never thought that she would leave in such a state. He didn't know where she had gone or where her soul had returned to, but he really regretted it. Mo Yuntian and the other two had received a notification from Tangwa the moment she was about to leave, so they weren't surprised. But when they came to the room and saw the cold man holding Tangwa's cold body with tears in his eyes and a forbearing expression, they were somewhat moved. Did Bai Wuqing really like their sister? Unfortunately, the girl was such a stubborn person. If she couldn't tolerate it, she couldn't tolerate it. No matter how much he tried to make it up to her, it was useless. He didn't know if this character was good or bad. I've said it before. Wherever you go, I'll be there. Wherever you go, I'll follow. Xiaoguo. Before the three of them could even react, Bai Wuqing actually dissipated his cultivation base, taking the initiative to dissipate from the world. Seeing this, they were also stunned, and in the end, they sighed endlessly. As for Bai Wuqing, he finally regained consciousness. A helpless smile hung on his face. In this life, he was really unwilling to give up. Agua was really a heartless woman. Where's Tangwa? Where is Aunt Saintis? Have you seen her? I want to find her. Where is she? Hearing the voices from outside, Bai Wuqing's eyes flashed with a cold light. Nobody could snatch away his Aguagua. Tangwa, Xiaogua, I remember now. I had a dream. I remember everything. I know the truth. I'm sorry. I'm here to apologize to you. In the future, we... Chapter 571. Lung Yiling pushed open the door, only to see two bodies hugging each other, slowly dissipating. This was the last of Bai Wuqing's power. Aguagua was his, and no one else could touch her corpse. Lung Yiling quickly rushed forward, only to pounce on empty air. Xiaoguo! Lung Yiling frantically searched the air, trying to catch Tangwa's aura, but there was nothing in front of him. He knelt on the ground in pain, staring blankly in front of him. Last night, I had two dreams, or rather, two different worlds. Mo Yuntian and the other two looked at each other, not interrupting Lung Yiling's speech. In fact, they vaguely guessed that the two dreams Lung Yiling had were really two worlds that had happened before. In the first dream, there was me, Xiaoguo, Bai Wuqing, and Feng Failing. Lung Yiling had a smile on his face. Xiaoguo and Bai Wuqing were together, and I was willing to let them be together. Feng Failing framed Xiaoguo, and I personally destroyed his spirit root. In the second dream, there was also us. At this moment, a pained expression appeared on Lung Yiling's face, and the tears at the corner of his eyes fell uncontrollably. Just like the beginning, Xiaoguo's spirit root was destroyed by me. What was different from this life was that not long after she left the mountain, she was framed by Feng Failing and fell into the hands of demonic cultivators. She suffered countless tortures and died. Because of me, Lung Yiling could not hold back his tears anymore, and he rubbed his face hard. Bai Wuqing finally found out the truth, but Feng Failing's power had already been established, and he was led into the nest of 1,000 devils to be tortured. I guess he was willing to be tortured, and I only found out the truth when I was undergoing my tribulation, and I was willing to die under the lightning tribulation. And Master, he raised his head and looked at Mo Yuntian, his eyes full of guilt. Mo Yuntian sighed. This was not a dream, it was real. If it wasn't for the girls' timely arrival, all of their fates would have been toyed with by Feng Failing. After saying that, Lung Yiling looked at the place where Tangwa had disappeared. He cried out in pain and shouted, "Little Guo must think that I'm stupid and doesn't want me anymore. Bai Wuqing made the same mistake as me. Why is she willing to let Bai Wuqing stay by her side?" Bai Wuqing changed very quickly. He soon realized his mistake. True Monarch Scarlet Firmament couldn't help but say, "That guy is really thick-skinned. Ever since the girl went down the mountain, he has been following her without any principles. Why do you think she wants someone who will criticize her at any time by her side? If it wasn't for the end, you might not have known the truth. Purple Cloud tugged at Qi Xiaojin Monarch. Don't talk about it anymore. Look at him. He's already in tears. Let him calm down. Let's go then. Mo Yuntian didn't care about Lung Yiling anymore. His life was saved, but this person was also crippled. The school bell's move really consigned Lung Yiling to eternal damnation. The three of them walked far away, but they could still hear the sobbing sounds coming from the house. Not long after, they received the news that Lung Yiling had destroyed his own spirit root. From then on, the devil sect had one more crippled person. It was said that he had a crazy smile on his face every day. Sometimes he would call Little Gua, and sometimes he would ask, "If I call you Aunt, will you come back?" "Sanis Aunt, Aunt, please come back." "Tongzi, I feel a little uncomfortable, a little sore, a little painful. The system was playing dead. Sorry, Madam Host, it's still an underage system. It's not suitable to watch this kind of scene." Tangua opened her eyes and looked around. The house was made of mud, and there was an unpainted four-cornered wooden table, a box, and a wardrobe. She was covered with a large floral quilt, and there was a wedding cake on the window. "This is the morning of our wedding? Host, have you forgotten? You came here last night." Tangua's face froze. This body was drunk last night, and then she came here. When she was teleported, she fell asleep and had a wonderful dream. In a daze, a familiar aura entered, and then... Chapter 572. After Tangua put on her clothes, she looked at her rustic clothes and confirmed the timeline. The system saw that Tangua had put on her clothes and came online. "Host, congratulations. You got married as soon as you came online." "Tangua, accept the plot." "Sigh, okay." Tangua leaned on the folded quilt and closed her eyes. She calmly accepted the plot of this world. This world told the story of a reincarnated girl. She lived a miserable life and was reborn with regret. She wanted to hold on to what she had given up and live a good life. If that was the case on the surface, there was nothing wrong with this reincarnated girl. The original owner would not be a cannon fodder. Chen Ying was the reincarnated female lead in this world. The incident happened in Chen Ying's previous life. One of the educated youths in the family Tang village was called Yi Song. He was so handsome that all the girls in the village were starry-eyed when they saw him. Chen Ying was no exception. Although the other girls in the village liked Yi Song, they cared more about their reputation. Chen Ying was more daring than the others. At first, she slowly got close to Yi Song. Later, when she saw that Yi Song was unwilling, she decided to go all the way. Yi Song had no choice but to marry Chen Ying. Chen Ying thought that Yi Song would definitely spend the rest of his life with her. She did not expect that although Yi Song looked like a weak scholar, he was very stubborn. He insisted on being a fake couple with her for the rest of his life. Less than 2 years later, the college entrance examination resumed. Chen Ying saw that Yi Song was revising seriously. She was afraid that Yi Song would leave her alone. She wanted to take revenge on Yi Song for not taking her seriously. She tore Yi Song's revision materials again and again. She sabotaged Yi Song's college entrance exam countless times. In the end, Yi Song did not take the exam and Chen Ying achieved her goal. Later on, Chen Ying was like a resentful wife. She did not want to divorce Yi Song and did not want to let him go. She pestered Yi Song for the rest of her life. Before she died, she finally regretted it. When she was 28 years old, she bumped into her fiancé, Xie Jun, who she had broken off her engagement with, on the street. He was already a regiment commander, and there was a beautiful and fashionable woman standing beside him. She was actually the daughter of the village head of family Tang village, the flower of the village. This was what Chen Ying regretted the most. If she hadn't reneged on the marriage, she would have been the one being addressed as Madam Regiment Commander in public. Before she died, she recalled this scene again, and regret filled her heart. When she opened her eyes again, she found that everything had returned to the beginning. She did not marry Yi Song, nor did she break the engagement with the Xie family. She decided that she would live a good life with Xie Jun in this life. She would not be entangled with Yi Song anymore. If this was the end of the story, it was not bad. However, When Channing saw the beautiful village belle and then looked at her sallow face and skinny body, she was afraid that Xie Jun would not like her. She was afraid that the village belle would threaten her marriage. So she did one thing. She planned for the village belle and Yi Song to fall into the water and let everyone in the village see it. At this time, many people still cared about reputation. Even the village head had to let his daughter marry that poor educated youth. When she saw this, Tangwa frowned. What about the rest of the plot? Dear host, this is this world, and it's written by a scammer author. That's all I've written. As for what happens next, I don't know. It's all up to the host. Chapter 573. Since there was no more plot, Tangwa did not dwell on it. She browsed through the plot again and realized that the village chief's family was not bad. They were harmonious, and she was very satisfied with this background. She also realized that Yi Song was quite interesting. He could silently fight with Channing for a lifetime. Yi Song is the most tolerant man I have ever met. Tangwa sighed. Suddenly, she felt a little uncomfortable and her face stiffened. That's not right. He insisted that nothing happened between them. Why? Perhaps the host was too beautiful? Tangwa frowned. The system quickly tried to salvage the situation. Perhaps he was drunk. Tangwa did not pursue this matter. It would be good if that guy was obedient. She calculated the time. Everyone in the family had gone to work to earn work points. There was one more year before the college entrance examinations resumed. At this time, many educated youths had received the news and were secretly preparing for the college entrance examinations. Yi Song was no exception. Under his suitcase, there was secretly hidden information about the college entrance examinations. It should have been sent from his family. Tangwa reached out her small white hand and could not help but smile. One look, and you could tell that he did not do any work. Her father, Tang Shogwa, was a person who loved his daughter to the point of infatuation. He could not bear to let her be wronged. Her mother even treated her like a little cotton jacket, afraid that she would be wronged. Her two brothers, on the other hand, doted on their sister like crazy. They could not bear to let their sister be exposed to the sun and rain outside. Therefore, the family would each do a little of Tangwa's work. They were not afraid of not being able to support her. Even though she was born in this era, this body of hers had not suffered much. The only thing that displeased the family was that their precious daughter, their precious little sister, had been taken by a gigolo. Early in the morning of the wedding, Yi Song was chased to the fields by his family, leaving her to sleep in here alone. Tangwa went to the kitchen. Indeed, she saw white mantus in the pot. Needless to say, they must have been left for her. There were a total of 4, and she ate 2. The white mantus in this era tasted really good. She had a lot of delicious food in her hands, but they could not compare to this for the time being. After eating, she greeted the people in the group, telling them that she had arrived in a new dimension and that they didn't have to worry. Then, she left the group and curled up in bed. Yi Song was dragged out to work by his father-in-law's family early in the morning. He did not stop working the whole time. Fortunately, he had been in the countryside for quite some time, so he did not pass out directly. Even now, he still felt like he was dreaming. He had fallen into the water with the village belle and tainted her innocence. Now that they were married, how could he not control himself and sleep with her when he was drunk last night? Yi Song wiped his sweat. He felt that he had committed a grave sin. Actually, he was the one who fell into the water. The village belle was passing by and saw him, a non-swimmer, flopping in the water. She didn't think much of it and jumped down to pull him ashore. She was his savior. Song Shui felt a little apologetic, but it seemed like there was nothing he could do now. He thought of another person, Chuning. It was not that he had any thoughts about Chuning, but he felt that the woman was very strange. Looking at the yard in front of him, he remembered that there was still a sleeping, tender little girl in the house. Yi Song looked at his slightly dirty hands and quickly put the tools aside to wash them. He felt that he still smelled of feces. If he walked in like this, he would stink the little girl inside. He turned around and took a cold shower and changed into clean clothes. Even though his stomach was rumbling with hunger, he still liked to clean himself up. When he walked to the door and thought of his behavior, he could not help but laugh. Chapter 574. He pushed the door open, and sure enough, he saw that curled-up little figure under the blanket. He walked over quietly, afraid that he would wake her up. Looking at her exposed, fair little feet, he could not help but walk over. He held her feet and stuffed them under the blanket. They were very smooth to the touch, and he had an urge to not let go. At this moment, he finally understood why the Tang family was willing to spoil her and wanted to raise her to the heavens. Now, he also wanted to do the same. Yisong felt that this little girl was poisonous. He was also poisoned. As he thought about it, he looked at that curled-up ball and smiled. Thinking that she was actually his wife, his smile grew wider. Tangwa lifted the blanket and revealed her head. Her beautiful eyes stared at the man in front of her. She was 18 years old this year, and Yisong was 20 years old this year. Yisong had been in the family Tang village for quite some time. Even though he was basking in the sun every day, he still looked very handsome. At most, his skin had changed from fair to wheat-colored, which actually made him look better. Yisong was smiling when he suddenly felt that someone was looking at him. His eyes met with a pair of dark eyes, and he was shocked. The little girl's cheeks were white and rosy. They were really very beautiful, and he had the urge to go up and pinch them. He swallowed his saliva and walked to the side of the bed. His voice was especially low. "Did I wake you up?" "No." Tangwa shook her head. Her gaze did not move away, and she kept staring at Yisong's face. Yisong felt a little uncomfortable, and his ears turned red. He was really embarrassed to be stared at by his beautiful wife like this. "Are you hungry?" "I just ate 2 white steamed buns," Tangwa said as the corners of her mouth curled up into a sweet smile at Yisong, and Yisong almost fainted. On the day he came to the village, he knew that this girl was very beautiful. He really did not expect that she would be even more beautiful up close. Now that she was his wife, he had to look at this beautiful face every day. Yisong felt that he was dreaming. It was not that he had not seen the world, and he had seen many beautiful girls, but he was sure that none of them were as beautiful as her. Tangwa stretched out her hands from under the blanket and said to Yisong, "Help me up." The little girl's soft voice made Songjie melt. He hurriedly held her arm and gently pulled her up, for fear that he would break her arm if he used too much strength. Tangwa threw herself into his arms, hugged his waist, and said in a low voice, "So cute." She laughed and said to the system, "This guy is so cute in this world. Host, I wish you a happy life." Yisong did not know what to do at all. Being hugged by such a soft body, his whole body was a little tense. "Yisong, we are married." Yisong's expression turned serious as he replied, "Yes, I will be responsible for you." This was something he was willing to say. It was a thought that came to his mind when he was in contact with her. They were already married. In this life, she was his wife. "Not only do you have to be responsible for me, you have to love me and dote on me."
Yes.
Yisong said without thinking. After saying that, he felt that it was natural for him to be good to her. "Guagua, I will be good to you. You are my wife." Tangwa let go of him, put on her shoes, and turned to the kitchen. She took the 2 remaining white steamed buns and stuffed them into his hands. She looked at him with a serious face. "You must be hungry. Eat. You will have the strength to work after eating." Chapter 575. Guagua, eat it. "I'm fine with some coarse grains." Yisong pushed the white steamed bun in front of Tangwa and shook his head. His wife was white and tender. She would definitely not be used to coarse grains. He was a man. He could eat anything. "Eat." Tangwa broke the white steamed bun open and put it into his mouth. Yisong chewed on the white steamed bun. It was not that he had never eaten food that was better than this, but he always felt that it was not as delicious as this steamed bun. He accidentally bit the little girl's tender finger as he held the steamed bun in his mouth. He could not help but suck on it before letting go. Looking at the little girl's red cheeks, he held her small waist and kissed her on the cheek. Tangwa was not shy. She could not help but laugh when she saw the man's ears turn red. He was really cute. "I'll go to the mountains to take a look after finishing my work in the afternoon. I'll hunt some game for Guagua." Ever since he came to the village to be an educated youth, Yisong had been living life day by day. He had never felt a sense of belonging. He thought that one day, he would go back. He had never thought of changing anything here, nor did he want to change himself here. However, this beautiful girl in front of him made him want to stay here for the first time. He hugged the little girl's soft body. His gaze swept past the box of clothes, and he was a little silent. Ever since he heard the news of the college entrance examination, his sister had sent him the materials. He had been secretly revising. With his results, it would be easy for him to leave here after the exam. However, now that his wife was in his arms, he could not bear to leave. And when he returned to his original place, he had a suspicion for the first time. Other than his sister, no one would want him to go back to that place, right? What are you thinking about? The plot of this world was not complete. Tangwa could not guess what Yisong was thinking. However, she vaguely guessed that he was thinking about the college entrance examination. I heard from my dad that the college entrance examination is going to be reinstated. Yi, do you want to take the college entrance examination? Tangwa smiled. If you want to take the college entrance examination, I'll ask my dad to arrange less work for you. It's not a problem for our family to support one more person. I've heard from my dad that you're a cultured person, so you definitely can't stay here forever. Yisong didn't expect the girl to be so straightforward. All the girls in the village who married an educated youth would keep the news a secret. They were afraid that the man would run away after the college entrance examination. He hugged the little girl's waist and couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you afraid that I'll leave you after the college entrance examination? I'm so beautiful. It's your loss if you don't want me. If you don't want me, someone else will." Yisong's heart tightened when he heard that. He suddenly had an idea. Why don't I give up on the college entrance examination? At that time, even if he was admitted, he might lose his wife. That would not be worth it. Guogua, I won't abandon you. How could he bear to do that? If he had to choose between the college entrance examination and his wife, he would choose his wife. He hugged her tightly. You're my wife. Tangwa lay in his arms and laughed happily. Ayi, are you going to take the exam or not? If you do, I'll support you. If you don't, you won't have such a good opportunity in the future. This is your only chance to go out. Yisong was silent for a while. He stared at the little girl in front of him who was seriously considering for him. There was only one impulse in his heart. He stayed and didn't take the exam, just for her. Leaving this place was not the only way out. In the past, he was unwilling. Once he had a goal, he could create a world for himself anywhere. Soon, the world would change, and his chance would come. Instead of returning to that place to fight with others, it was better to stay in this small world and develop with his wife. I'm not taking the exam. He wrapped his arms around Tangwa and buried his head in her neck. Guogua, believe me, even if I don't take the exam, I'll let you live the best life. It won't be worse than those rich wives in the capital. The corners of Tangwa's mouth curved. This man is really capable. Only a man who had set his goal was willing to work hard. Chapter 576. I'm really not taking the exam. During lunch, Yisong announced the news in front of the whole family, shocking everyone in the family Tang village. Originally, everyone was very hungry, but when they heard Yisong's decision, they couldn't care less about eating. Everyone's eyes fell on Yisong, the young man. Tangwa's eldest and second brothers, Tang Tianyu and Tang Tianhang, also widened their eyes. After being stunned, they looked at Yisong in a better light. Brother-in-law was not taking the exam, which meant that he wanted to stay and was different from the other educated youths in the village who were secretly preparing to run away. It was not that they were biased against the exam, but the family Tang village had a different culture. They respected educated people, but those educated youths did not leave a good impression on them. At first, those who came down were not able to work, ate a lot, and did not work much. They were also very arrogant, and not many people in the village liked them. Later, reality hit them hard, and they accepted their fate and started to work hard. They had to work hard to get food, and if they did not work, they would starve. Some of the female educated youths could not take it and married the villagers, so that they would not starve. Some of the male educated youths also hooked up with the village girls who were slightly better off, and they were laughed at by many people. Their impression of Yisong was not very good. Yisong was not very active in his work, but he would not slack off either. However, He always seemed to only do what he wanted to do. Now that Yi Song was their brother-in-law, they knew from the start that he was an educated person, and his status in the past might not be low. In Tang Shogwa's words, this young man was most likely a young master from a rich family. When they heard Yi Song say that he was not taking the exam, everyone was stunned. Tang Tianyu couldn't help but laugh out loud. If you don't do well, brother-in-law, you can just stay in Tang Village and live a good life with my sister. Yes, 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 work hard. My sister is so obedient. It's your fortune to marry her. Not taking the exam is the right thing to do. Shut up. What do you two brats know? Tang Shogwa slammed the table, and Tang Tianyu and Tang Tianhang did not dare to speak. They even shrunk their necks, but their eyes clearly said, Dad, it's good that you're not taking the exam, then brother-in-law will not run away. There were so many people in their family. Even if their brother-in-law was a gigolo, as long as he treated their sister well, they would still be able to support him. Xiaoyi, you have to consider this matter carefully. In the beginning, Tang Shogwa was also afraid that Yi Song would use the college entrance examination to run away and make his precious daughter suffer. However, when he glanced at Yi Song, who was looking at his precious daughter with a doting expression, the corner of his mouth could not help but twitch. They had just sat down on the table, and Yi Song had already supported them as if they were holding a treasure. Tang Shogwa's expression was also indescribable. Then he thought that she was indeed his precious daughter. She could even win over the most virtuous, educated youth in the village. Yi Song smiled. Dad, I've already made up my mind. I'll stay in Family Tang Village from now on. Tang Shogwa still didn't quite agree. When he first saw Yi Song, he knew that this young man wasn't simple. As long as he was given a chance, he would definitely soar into the sky. However, the other party's subsequent performance was mediocre, so he probably wouldn't stay here for too long. Now that he suddenly gave up on the college entrance examination, he felt that it was a pity. If you're giving up the exam for Guogua, I don't agree. At most, you and Guogua can revise together starting tomorrow. There are so many people in the family, it's not a problem to provide for the two of you. You can take the exam together. Luo Chuanli also agreed with Tang Shogwa's suggestion. Yes, you can take the exam together. Chapter 577. The family Tang's reaction was what Yi Song did not expect. He looked at his little wife sitting on the side, and then looked at the family Tang people who kindly advised him to take the college entrance examination. The sense of belonging in his heart increased again. Dad, Mom, brothers, I gave up the college entrance examination because of Guogua, but that doesn't mean that I gave up my bright future. I haven't mentioned my family's situation to you before. My family is quite complicated. Even if I take the exam and go back, it will take me several years to go to school. Moreover, I've been away for a long time. According to my brother's personalities, there may not be a place for me to settle down. It's better to develop in the family Tang village. Dad, believe me, I won't let Guogua live a hard life with me. Yi Song held the little hand that reached out to his palm and squeezed it gently. He suddenly felt satisfied. Instead of returning to that family full of fighting, it was better to stay in the warm family Tang village. I told Guogua that in the future, I will let her live better than the rich wives in Beijing. Hearing this, Luo Chuanli could not help but laugh. It was the first time she realized that this cold son-in-law was so good at talking. Her daughter was still the best. As soon as she got married, she made Song Gaoling give a long speech. Song Gaoling was the nickname given to Yi Song by the village. Because he barely communicated with people when he came to the village, countless girls in the village struck up a conversation with him, but he always said, well, oh, sorry. After Yi Song answered Tang Shogwa's countless questions, the family Tang people finally understood his determination to stay. In order to show that he was serious, he sent the review materials to his sister in the afternoon. At this time, a copy of the review materials was still very precious. When the family Tang people saw that he was so determined, they stopped persuading him. Instead, they treated Yi Song better and better. After finishing his work in the afternoon, Yi Song came back. He took his tools and prepared to go hunting in the mountains. When he was about to leave, Tanghua came out of the house and hugged his arm. Ah Yi, I'll go with you. Yi Song looked at his wife's tender little face and white little hands. He thought of the weeds in the mountains. What if his wife's skin was cut? Just as he was about to shake his head, Tangwa dragged him out with a smile on her face. I want to watch you hunt. The young lady's smile was too sweet. Yisong couldn't control himself and nodded. He took the opportunity to hold his wife's hand. Then I'll hold Guogua's hand. After walking out of the Tang residence, Yisong finally realized what he had just promised. He glanced at his excited wife beside him. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart when he didn't say anything about sending her back. Such a beautiful wife was also a kind of trouble. If he wasn't careful, he might do something that went against his principles. I.e., what are you going to do in Family Tang Village? I want to set up a factory. Tangwa was a little surprised. Why did you think of this? What factory? Food factory. In addition, we plan to lease the mountain and raise chickens. When we have a certain amount of funds, we will gradually liberalize the country. We will improve the environment of Family Tang Village. For example, we will build buildings. It was quite easy to say, but it wasn't easy to do, especially at the end of this special period. It was also because of this that some things were easier to do. Tangwa didn't ask anymore, but Yisong couldn't help but tell her his plan. In a few years, the standard of living in our country will gradually improve. The food factory will focus on all kinds of canned food and holiday gifts. It will be very popular. Chapter 578. And in the future, it won't be strange for every family to eat meat every day. It's necessary to raise chickens in the mountains. Even if no one buys them locally, they can be sold to other places. The richer the family, the more they value natural products. The more expensive they are, the more they will like it. In a few years, the country's population will swell, and the standard of living will improve. The so-called basic necessities, food, shelter, and transportation will mean that people will think of ways to improve their environment. Housing will be very important, and finally transportation. Before that, we can develop Tang Village into a paradise and a tourist attraction in the future. Tangwa couldn't help but communicate with the system. He hasn't been reborn, right? No, dear host, he just has good taste. It should be related to the environment he grew up in. Some people are born to be spoiled. It's like their brains are on fire. Tangwa was envious. A guy who hadn't been reborn could almost describe the future situation in terms of food, clothing, housing, and transportation, and even the future of Family Tang Village. Guogua, what do you think? Yisong realized that his wife didn't speak. He lowered his head and saw that she was in a daze. He thought that she didn't understand. If there's anything you don't understand, I'll explain it to you slowly. Yisong felt that it was necessary for him to explain everything to his little wife. Not only did he want to improve himself and develop Family Tang Village, but he also wanted to improve with her. It wasn't that he looked down on her background and thought that she was shallow. It was only when the two of them improved together that they wouldn't be too far apart. Only when the two of them had constant topics to talk about could their relationship grow deeper. After chatting with Yisong for a while, Tangwa found that this man was very charming and attractive. He was a very cute person. He was really considering everything for the future. He even told her tactfully that he wanted to improve himself continuously. She couldn't help but laugh. He also said that if she had anything she didn't understand, she could ask him at night. The two of them improved together. He didn't plan to treat her as a vase at all. Tangwa looked at Yisong's chatty face, and her eyes curved into crescents. Yisong occasionally noticed his wife's gaze. His ears turned red, but he still held her little hand and didn't have any intention of letting go. Being looked at by his wife like this gave him the urge to do great things. Thinking about the past, he felt like he had been fed to the dogs. When they arrived at the mountain, Yisong let Tangwa stand in a safe place while he ran through the bushes. In the end, he hunted a wild rabbit and caught 2 wild chickens. Tangwa also picked some wild vegetables. In the end, Yisong held his wife's hand and carried the well-hidden prey down the mountain. The two of them looked so loving that they shocked the villagers who passed by. Is that young man Song Jiqing? It seems to be Song Gowling. The one beside her is Tang Village Belle. Yes. Oh right, they just got married yesterday. Everyone looked at each other. Song Gowling actually smiled, and it was with Village Belle Tang. However, the two of them did look very compatible. When Chuning was working, she overheard someone talking about Yisong and Tanghua. She lowered her head and smiled. Whoever met Yisong would be unlucky. She and that man had been tormenting each other for a lifetime, and she was finally free in this life. Let's not talk about anything else. The two of them do look very compatible. Chuning curled her lips. So what if they were compatible? That man Yisong was useless except for being a little good-looking. In her previous life, they were husband and wife in name only. That man had been mediocre all his life. It turned out that he was only good-looking. Chapter 579. Chuning, didn't you like Song Jiqing before? Li Tsuehua heard other people's discussion and pushed Chuning, who was squatting on the ground and weeding. Now Song Gaoling belongs to the beauty of Tang Village. You can't believe it. Chuning glanced at the regretful Li Tsuehua with disdain. Who said I like him? Hey, you don't like him? Didn't you secretly give him eggs before? I saw it all. Li Tsuehua's voice was a little loud, but he didn't want it. Ha, as expected of Song Gaoling. Chuning frowned and was a little unhappy. Tsuehua, don't talk nonsense without evidence. I have a fiancé. When did I get involved with Song Jiqing? If you ruin my reputation again, I'll go to your Li family to reason. Tisk. Li Tsuehua felt a little uncomfortable. She had clearly seen it before. Ever since Song Jiqing came to the village, Chuning had been talking to her every now and then. Anyone with a discerning eye could see it. Now, she was trying to cover it up. How shameless. She obviously had a fiancé, but she still wanted to hook up with Song Jiqing. She should look at herself. Would Song Jiqing like her? Sister, what Tsuehua said is true. Chun Fongfong was close. When she heard Li Tsuehua's words, she quietly came over. Are you really interested in Song Jiqing? No. Chuning was a little annoyed. Being reborn was a good thing, but the Chen family was also troublesome. Chun Fongfong was unhappy. Sister, do you not like Xie Shijun? Sister, if you don't like Xie Shijun, why don't you ask our mother to let me marry Xie Shijun? He's in the army now. I'll be 18 in 2 years. I don't mind that he's old. You don't like him. I'm younger. Marrying him can be considered as compensation. Chuning almost hit Chun Fongfong with the hoe. Her little sister was still as shameless as in her previous life. She hadn't broken off the engagement with Xie Shijun yet, and the other party wanted to snatch Xie Shijun away. Fongfong, sister, why are you yelling at me? Chun Fongfong screamed. She couldn't take it anymore and shouted, It's obviously you who doesn't like Xie Shijun. There's nothing wrong with my suggestion. Anyway, you're my daughter. Shut up. Chuning really wanted to jump up and tear Chun Fongfong's mouth apart. How could she have such a shameless sister? Fortunately, Li Tsuehua did not notice them, and there were not many people here. The people in the distance only glanced over, but Chen Ying's expression still turned ugly. Mom, look at sister. She's being fierce to me. Seeing Chun Fongfong move to Ding Yuzhen's side, Chuning almost choked on her anger. Tanghua stood at the edge of the field with a kettle in her arms, looking at Yisong who was plowing the field. As for the conversation between Chun Fongfong and Chuning, Lin Mengya heard every word and could not help but laugh. Chuning didn't bring any Goldfinger with her when she was reborn, such as a portable space or something. No. Perhaps the author wanted to show that the female lead could have a different life even without a cheat. At this time, Yisong had already plowed a piece of land. He wiped his sweat, and Tanghua quickly went up to him and poured him a bowl full of water. Yisong drank a mouthful of water and immediately felt a chill in his heart. He then looked at his little wife who was blushing. Guogua, go back quickly. The sun is hot. Actually, the weather was not hot, but the sun looked very bright. Yisong felt hot because he was sweating from plowing the field. Yi, I'll wait for you here. Okay. Yisong saw his little wife's sweet smile and could not help but agree. After agreeing, he looked at her helplessly. Go under the tree. Chapter 580. Every time Yisong stopped, Tanghua would go up to get him some water, which attracted many people's attention. The men who worked together, whether married or not, were very envious of Yisong. If they had a beautiful wife like Tang Village Belle standing next to them, watching them work, and coming up to get water when they were thirsty, they would be very motivated. The situation here finally attracted Chan Ying's attention. She didn't want to see it at first, but everyone around her was talking. Taking advantage of the break, she walked over to Tanghua. From afar, she saw a very beautiful girl sitting under a tree, looking very attentively at the most handsome man who was plowing the field. Chun Ying was disdainful. In the future, Tanghua would understand that Yi Song was really useless. Many people are saying that the college entrance examination is going to be reinstated, Chuning said casually. Chuning said casually, has there been any movement from your man recently? Beauty Tang, you have to be careful. Once this man wants to leave, he will find a way to leave. In her previous life, she tore up Yi Song's review materials 3 times before she ruined his college entrance examination. Later, when she moved, she found 2 copies under her bed. She didn't know where Yi Song, a poor educated youth, got so many review materials. Unlike her, Tang Village Belle was more innocent. If Yi Song really used some tricks to deceive her, she wouldn't be able to handle it. Fortunately, she had a father who was the village chief. Otherwise, she would have been completely controlled by Yi Song. Although she thought so, Chuning didn't sympathize with Tanghua. Tanghua had never suffered since she was young. Even in the most difficult days, she still had a family who doted on her. Her life was much better than hers. It could be said that Tang Village Belle was as lucky as Chuning was unlucky. It was as if God only cared about her. Chuning couldn't do anything to Yi Song, but Tanghua was different. She had her family to support her, so Yi Song didn't dare to bully her. Thinking of this, Chuning felt even less guilty. Yi is not taking the college entrance examination. Tanghua looked at Chuning and didn't miss the flash of jealousy in her eyes. She somewhat understood why Chuning schemed against her. It was because her fate made Chuning jealous, and she felt that it was unfair for her, especially when the original owner was with Xie Shijun in her previous life. Chun Ying was surprised. Song Jiqing won't take the college entrance examination? I'm not participating. Tanghua smiled. Is there any problem, Chuning? No. Chuning said perfunctorily. She thought that Yi Song's family Tang must have pressured him. Humph. This Yi Song bullied the weak and feared the strong. He only bullied her. In the end, the Tang family said that they would not take the college entrance examination. Soon, Chuning was happy again. When she married Xie Shijun and became the wife of a regiment commander, she would return to the family Tang village. Yi Song would be like those ordinary old men in the village. On the other hand, she wore fashionable brand clothes and had people following her wherever she went. She also had a regiment commander husband who doted on her. Oh, then I'll get to work. Chun Ying didn't want to talk to Tanghua anymore. She didn't want to talk to someone who only cared about the village. Only after seeing the prosperity of the future and walking out of the family Tang village did she understand how big the world was. Tanghua didn't stop Chuning. After seeing Chuning, she understood why she didn't think of using the future she knew to do anything after her rebirth. It turned out that she was waiting to marry Xie Shijun. Actually, she didn't quite understand this mentality. She knew that she had the advantage, but why did she always want to change her fate on others? Chapter 581. Tanghua was right next to the field. She accompanied Yi Song for the whole afternoon. After drinking up the water in the kettle, she ran home, blew on the water to cool it down, and quickly brought it back. Any man wouldn't be able to control himself if a beautiful woman was looking at him attentively while serving him tea from time to time. The people who went to the field with her all found that Song Jiqing was very fierce today. She did the work of 3 people alone. When the sun went down, Yi Song was already sweaty. He took the towel from Tanghua and wiped the sweat off. Looking at his fair little wife in front of him, he resisted the urge to hug her. Now he was eager to get the factory done as soon as possible so that he could concentrate on running the factory in the future. Then he wouldn't have to go to the field. He would be clean and could hug his fragrant wife at any time. Yi Song was a little speechless about his own thoughts. He didn't expect that the biggest reason why he was so eager to start the factory was so that he could hug his wife at any time. If others knew about it, the villagers would laugh their teeth off. Yi, why are you so far away from me? Tanghua asked knowingly. She liked this man named Yi Song. He was cute and pure. Yi Song's handsome face turned red. I'm dirty and smelly. Then you can hold my hand. Yi Song looked at his dirty hands and quickly shook his head. My hands are dirty too. The road is uneven. Yi, if you don't hold my hand, I'll accidentally fall. If I bump, fall, or bump into something, I'll get hurt. Tanghua hugged the water bottle and said to Yi Song with a serious face. The host of the system began to be unreasonable again. Yi Song looked at the flat road with an indescribable expression. He knew that his little wife was teasing him, but he was really thinking about what if there was a small stone on the road and Guagua stepped on it and fell on her? He stood there and hesitated. The two of them were talking in a moderate voice. The people on the road heard them and couldn't help laughing. They thought that Song Jiqing would definitely win over the village belle. They didn't expect that the village belle would win over Song Jiqing. She was indeed the village belle. Song Jiqing, you'd better hold the village belle's hand. If she really bumps into the little girl, you won't be sad at night. That's right, that's right. Let's hold each other's hands. We won't laugh. Even if it's dirty, can't you guys wash it together later? Tanghua smiled. Everyone wants you to hold my hand, Song Jiqing. She had already called him Song Jiqing. Yi Song was afraid that she would be angry, so he quickly held his wife's hand. Tanghua was satisfied. She moved closer to him, and the two of them walked side by side. Knowing that Yi Song would definitely not be used to being too close to her when she was dirty, she tactfully did not push her luck. I've already boiled some hot water for you. Yi Song frowned. Don't do it next time. Hot water won't take long. Don't tire yourself out. The onlookers were at a loss for words. He was tired. They had never heard of anyone getting tired from heating water. If that was the case, wouldn't they be exhausted to death? Chen Ying was also in the crowd. When she saw the interaction between the two of them and Yi Song's words, her eyes almost popped out. She must be wrong. How could Yi Song be so good to a woman? Even if it was Tanghua who pulled him out of the water before, he didn't have to be so good to her. Chen Ying was so jealous. Tanghua felt Chen Ying's gaze and whispered, Yi, are you familiar with Chen Ying? She's peeking at you. Yi Song's whole body tensed up. Chapter 582. No, I'm not familiar with her at all. Yi Song blurted out. Then he felt that something was wrong and asked, Who is she? Tanghua almost laughed out loud. Chen Ying, I heard that she secretly gave you eggs before. She never asked for them. Yi Song quickly expressed his loyalty. It's true. I don't even remember what she looks like. Guagua, you said that she peeked at me. Why didn't I find out where she was? Yi, I'm just curious. Tanghua said seriously, You don't have to be so serious. I believe that you don't have anything to do with her. Yi Song held Tanghua's hand tightly. Guagua, I don't have anything to do with any woman except you. The two of them whispered intimately, making others envious. Chen Ying, who was following behind them, was jealous and couldn't believe it. Sister, you said you didn't miss Song Jiqing. Look, you just stared at him. Fortunately, Chun Fongfong was a little shameless and didn't shout in the crowd. She just whispered to Chen Ying. Chen Ying was already in a bad mood. She glared at Chin Fongfong and almost slapped her. What are you staring at? Sister, do you dare to say that you didn't stare at him just now? Chun Fongfong was unhappy. How can you face Yeshijun like this? Get out. Chen Ying didn't have the patience to argue with Chin Fongfong. Her face was gloomy. If you say one more word, I promise you'll regret it. Chun Fongfong looked at Chen Ying's fierce face. She had never won a fight with Chen Ying, so she shrank her neck unwillingly. A few days later, Tang Shogwo received news that he was going to set up a factory. He called Yi Song and prepared to go to town. Tanghua observed Tang Shogwo's expression. It looked good. If Yi Song performed well this time, he should be able to get the qualification to set up a factory. When they went to town, Yi Song also brought Tanghua along. Tang Shogwa didn't agree at first. After all, this was a big deal. However, Yi Song said that Guagua was the future wife of the factory director. His son-in-law was spoiling his daughter more and more. For the first time, Tang Shogwa wondered if his daughter would be spoiled. The three of them went to the state-run restaurant first, then they went to see the mayor together. The mayor had always had a good relationship with Tang Shogwa, but when it came to setting up a factory, the other party was still quite strict. At this time, there were only state-owned factories. If Family Tang Village set up a factory, it would mean that resources would be diverted to Family Tang Village. Even if the mayor agreed, the other cooperatives would not agree. However, after Yisong took out a thick stack of handwritten plans, the mayor looked at Yisong differently, but he still did not agree directly. However, anyone could tell that the other party was tempted. In the end, the other party told them to go back and wait for news. He said that he still needed to think about it. Yisong and Tang Shogwa smiled. Thinking about it meant that it was about time. At this time, if he couldn't accept it, he would definitely reject it directly. Yisong's reason for setting up the factory was particularly dignified. It was to bring glory to the country. Moreover, the ingredients he chose at the beginning were some wild vegetables and fruits found in the mountains and canned them. Have you made canned food before? Tangwa had never seen anyone make canned food at home, so she was a little curious. Yisong shook his head and laughed. If it didn't succeed, would Dad agree to let me meet the mayor? Would the mayor meet me? They have all eaten those things. Why don't I know about it? Tangwa was a little puzzled. These people even secretly made the results of their canned food. Yisong was a little embarrassed. His ears were also red. I made them every day when you were asleep. I wanted to give you a surprise. Oh, so this Family Tang Village, from top to bottom, colluded with their son-in-law to deceive their biological daughter. It was also good. Chapter 583. After the application for the factory was approved, the news of the resumption of the college entrance examination was spread. Many educated youths in the village started to revise openly. Some of the married educated youths who had the support of their wives did not work and just focused on revising. Chuning did not know if it was because she was not having a good time at home. She often sneaked out to sell some things as if she was saving money. Of course, only Tangwa knew about this. Others did not know. Yisong also did not go to the fields. Everyone in the village knew that he was not taking the college entrance examination and was trying to set up a food factory. Chuning scoffed at this. Although it was good to set up a factory, it was difficult to set up a factory in the village. Just wait and see. Yisong would be blamed by the entire village. Unfortunately, Xie Jun would be back soon. She would not stay in the village to see Yisong fail. During this period, Xiao Ying worked hard to save money. She was waiting for Xie Jun to come back so that they could get married. She did not want to stay in the Chen family anymore. Her family members were annoying her, especially Chen Fongfong, who kept asking her to marry Xie Jun if she did not like him. If this continued, Xiao Ying felt that she would die of anger. Tangwa and Yisong went to town once. They met Chen Ying and a young man in military uniform at a state-run restaurant. This man looked to be around 25 years old. He was not handsome, but he had a masculine look. He was tall and gave people a sense of security. Chen Ying and Xie Jun sat opposite each other. Xie Jun did not talk much. Chen Ying wanted to leave a good impression because of her previous life. So, she was the one who was talking. She had earned some money some time ago, so she had dressed herself up. She had secretly eaten a lot of food, and her face looked a lot rosier. Tangwa and Yisong were sitting at the other table, eating slowly while secretly eavesdropping on the conversation between the two. Chen Ying had lived in the future. She was not like the women in this era. They would lower their heads and look at men shyly. Instead, they looked at men boldly. Xie Jun didn't say anything. It was just that she was different from the fiancé he had imagined. The fiancé he had imagined was a fair little girl who was a little shy. She would look at him, but she would look at him secretly. Xie Jun was not disappointed. At most, he was a little regretful. Moreover, Chen Ying looked pretty and talkative. His first impression of her was good. In short, Tangwa understood that the two of them wouldn't make any mistakes. Guogua, why are you staring at others? Yisong held his wife's hand and turned her face to let her look at him. Look at me. All right, I'll look at Ai. Only Ai. Okay? Yisong was satisfied. If it weren't for the fact that they were in public, he would have hugged his little wife and kissed her. After the two finished eating, they paid the bill and were about to leave the restaurant. Chen Ying and Xie Jun stood up at the same time, and the two parties happened to meet face to face. Of course, Xie Jun. Of Chen Ying. Song Jiqing, Beltang, You are also here for dinner. Chuning showed a sweet smile, trying to show off in front of Xieshijun. When Xieshijun saw Tanghua, he froze for a moment. Subconsciously, a thought flashed through his mind. In his imagination, his wife should be like this. However, when she thought of Qining, who was beside him, she felt a little guilty. She quickly put away her thoughts and stopped looking at Tanghua. She only nodded at Yisong. Yisong had an uncomfortable feeling just now. He held his wife's hand, said goodbye to the two of them faintly, and left. Chapter 584. Brother Xie, what's wrong with you? Xieshijun stood at the entrance of the restaurant and was stunned for a moment. Chuning clearly felt that Xieshijun was stunned because he met Tanghua and Yisong just now. As for who among the two of them was stunned, there was no need to guess. It was definitely Tanghua. Chuning was secretly jealous, but at the same time, she was glad that she acted first and let Tanghua and Yisong get married. Otherwise, when Xieshijun came back and saw that Tanghua was still single, he might have other thoughts. Nothing. Xieshijun was indeed stunned because of Tanghua. He had seen Tanghua when he was a child, but at that time, she was still a little girl in the village. In his impression, she grew up in the hands of her Tang family. She was a fair, clean, and tender little girl. Let's go back. Xieshijun was a little amused by the inexplicable feeling in his mind. He stopped thinking about Tanghua and started to think about his relationship with Qining. His first impression of Chuning was still good. If there were no accidents, he would go back and report his marriage this time. When Chuning heard Xieshijun ask about her, she was relieved. She did not show it on her face. She had been acting naturally, which made Xieshijun more and more satisfied. These had nothing to do with Tanghua. She and Yisong had dinner, bought some things, and went back to the village. Not long after, they heard that Xieshijun and Chuning were going to get married. There was no special situation in the Xie family. However, when Xieshijun went back to the army to report his marriage, the Chen family caused a lot of trouble. Most of the trouble was caused by Chen Fangfang. Chen Fangfang always said that Chuning did not like Xieshijun and wanted her to marry Xieshijun. She became a joke in the village. However, the Chen family was very bad. They doted on their youngest daughter, Chen Fangfang, and their youngest son, Chen Shubao. However, they did not treat Chuning well. This matter was caused by Chen Fangfang making trouble every day because of Xieshijun. It really made Ding Yuzhen think that she should change the person who got married. Probably only the Chen clan could think of such a ridiculous thing. Chen Fangfang and Ding Yuzhen had good plans, but Xieshijun's mother, Su Qilan, was not easy to fool. Chen Fangfang was a well-known spoiled girl in the village. How could she be faster and more capable than Chen Yingqi? After Chen Ying's rebirth, she understood Su Qilan's personality. She knew that Su Qilan liked girls who were hardworking and capable. When she went to work, as long as Su Qilan was there, she would definitely perform well. Apart from the fact that she had vaguely gotten close to Yisong before her rebirth, Su Qilan was absolutely satisfied with her. Moreover, she had made it clear many times that she had no interest in Yisong. Now that Chen Fangfang had made a fool of herself, it made people feel that Chen Fangfang was deliberately slandering her own sister in order to marry Xieshijun. The Xie family had no intention of changing their daughter-in-law. Besides, even Xieshijun himself was satisfied with Qian Ying. How could he change it to the arrogant Chen Fangfang? Chen Fangfang didn't achieve her goal, and her reputation was almost ruined. She had formed a grudge with Qian Ying. When Xieshijun came back, it would be time for him to marry Qining. Moreover, before that, Xieshijun had applied for a family member to follow him. After Qian Ying married Xieshijun grandly, she left with him, leaving Chen Fangfang in the village. All these had nothing to do with Tanghua or Yisong. They were busy with the factory. Chapter 585. The location of the food factory was outside the village. After the decision was made, Tang Shogua asked people to build a few simple houses. Actually, he was leaning towards the village, but Yisong said that it was not easy to deal with the garbage in the village and it would affect the villagers' lives. If they were to import machinery in the future, the noise would be louder, and if the factory expanded, it would not be easy to rebuild. Tang Shogua was successfully persuaded. Ma Yi might have been reborn, but he lost his memory. Tangwa said to the system. She was not idle. She helped to taste the canned food and often gave some useful suggestions. Yi Song was very happy. Now, he brought her with him every day. Whenever he encountered any problems that he could not solve temporarily, he would ask his little wife. There would always be different results, and it would make him feel enlightened. Yi Song set up the factory in a hurry. The villagers did not like it at first. Later on, when they had free time, they also joined the factory to help. They became temporary workers in the factory. They were very happy to be able to distribute food. In the beginning, it was quite difficult. Whether it was the environment or the sales of food, it was very difficult. The family Tang family was very busy. Later, it was proven that Yi Song was indeed a capable man. From selling food to other factories, to the neighboring towns, to the county, to the city, and then to the provincial capital. Step by step, real development. The food factory that everyone did not think highly of became a delicious cake. Everyone wanted to have a bite. Unfortunately, it was too late. A year later, the country ushered in a reform. Every family was given land, and many educated youths took the college entrance examination and left. Yi Song's factory was a lot bigger. The factory also hired formal workers, and priority was given to the villagers of Family Tang Village. At this time, there were people in other places who were learning from Yi Song to set up factories. But Yi Song had taken the initiative. The brand of the food factory was widely known. Many people who bought food in festive gift boxes identified the brand Tang. The name of the factory was very simple. It was called Tang Group, and the special symbol of Tang Group was the word Tang. Many people were curious. Why was it a Tang? Yi Song did not explain to anyone, but Tangwa asked him. The answer she got was, Guogua's smile was very sweet, sweeter than sugar. After Tangwa heard it, she was a little tired. Director Song's words of love were indeed different from others. The food factory was no longer just a few simple rooms. Instead, it had applied for a formal construction site, and there was already a model of the future. During this period, the country encouraged economic development, and it was the best time to rise. After the food factory was on the right track, Yi Song proposed to contract the surrounding mountains to plant mountain treasures, fruit trees, and produce and sell their own products. At the same time, he opened the chicken farm. The Family Tang family was very busy, and the villagers were also very busy. Now, wherever Yi Song pointed, they would follow. In short, following Manager Song would definitely bring benefits. Song Jiqing, no. Director Song now, no. Director Song. No matter what benefits there were, the first consideration was the villagers, and then the other villages. It could be said that his words carried more weight than Tang Shog was in the village. The people in the village were all official employees of the food factory. Most of the people in the other villages were temporary workers. It was only because of the expansion of the factory that they needed people who were good at farming and raising livestock that they took in a batch of official workers. Because of Yi Song and Family Tang Village, the mayor's performance in the past 2 years had been very good. He was praised by the higher-ups and was promoted to the county magistrate. Tang Shogwa was no longer the village chief of Family Tang Village. He took over the position of mayor of Dan Town and could be considered the county magistrate's confidant. Chapter 586. Guogua, you and Xiaoyi have been married for more than 3 years, right? One day, when the family was eating, Luo Chuanli asked, now that the factory is on the right track, the surrounding mountains have been contracted by Xiaoyi, and the chicken farm at the back of the mountain has also been opened, shouldn't you consider having a child? The great host had gone into labor. The system rejoiced in other people's misfortune. After experiencing so many worlds, it seemed that there were very few people who went into labor. It also wanted to know how the great host would deal with it this time. Tangwa glanced at the worried Luo Chuanli, as if she was afraid that Yi Song would run away if she did not give birth to a child. She found it funny. Sorry for the child. Even if this body was normal, because of her soul, it was impossible for her to have a child. She did not have much feelings for children. If the original owner had one, she would raise it well, but if she did not, then so be it. Even if she liked all kinds of deep and pure feelings, she was still more fickle than many people. But the people of this era, regardless of gender, should care more about children. She glanced at Yi Song, and Yi Song also stared at his little wife. The two of them looked at each other for a while, and Luo Chuanli realized that she was playing the lute to a cow. She was worried that the couple would not have a child for long, and the man would have a change of heart. She did not expect the two of them to look at each other affectionately in front of her. She worried for nothing. At night, the current factory manager Yi Song brought the hot water to the bedside to soak his little wife's feet. As for Luo Chuanli mentioning having a child during the day, he had completely forgotten when he saw his little wife. His wife was already a child, and he still had to pamper her. If he wanted to have a child, his wife would definitely be tired out. Ah Yi, Guogua, what's wrong? Tangwa smiled and asked, do you want a child? Yi Song did not understand the meaning of this sentence, but he still answered according to his own thoughts. Actually, having Guogua is enough for me. He really thought so in his heart. When he thought that a child would take up Guogua's time, and that he would not be the only man in her eyes in the future, he felt very uncomfortable. Is that so? Tangwa smiled and said, if I don't have a child in this life, will you regret it? She asked seriously. She would not have a child, and if Yi Song liked children, she had no right to deprive him of his right to be a father. She quite liked Yi Song. This man was very pure, and he hit the spot that she liked. She would not give up on such a person unless she had no other choice. However, there were some problems that had to be considered. For example, if the other party insisted on having a biological child, she would not be able to help. She would not stop him, nor would she ask him to give up being a father for her. Since the other party wanted her biological children, she had no choice but to fulfill her wish. If the other party wasn't so stubborn, then they would be safe for the rest of their lives. Guogua, is there something wrong with your body? Yi Song's expression changed slightly. The first thing that came to his mind was not whether he had a child, but whether his little wife had some kind of illness. He stood up nervously and held her in his arms. Go to the hospital for a checkup tomorrow. I don't like children. I only want Guogua. Yi Song was afraid that his wife would be sad, so he hurriedly said. He was telling the truth. There was no room for another person in his eyes, even if this person might be his child. He couldn't imagine that his little wife, who only had eyes for him, would one day give half of her attention and heart to another person. Chapter 587. Tangwa burst into laughter. There's nothing wrong with my body. It was absolutely normal to go for a checkup. But we won't have children, she said seriously. Ah Yi, I want to make it clear to you. It's not too late to back out now. Yi Song didn't say anything. He just hugged his soft little wife in his arms and said in her ear, when I came back from work that day, I opened the door and walked into the room. When Guogua lifted the blanket and looked at me with her beautiful eyes, my soul was already taken away. At that time, there was only one thought in my mind. I'll hold you in the palm of my hand and dote on you. I, Yi Song, will only dote on Guogua in my life. I'll only treat you well. I don't have extra time or extra thoughts to share with others. Actually, I was thinking about what to do if Guogua likes children. In the future, I won't be the only one in your eyes. Your heart will also be shared with someone else. Yi Song didn't think about asking Tangwa why they wouldn't have children in this life. This wasn't important. What was important was that they didn't want a third party to interfere in their love life. When Tangwa heard these sincere words, the smile on her face didn't disappear. She wrapped her arms around the man's sturdy waist. That's great. Director Song's thinking is very advanced. He's also very good at saying sweet nothings. Then does Guogua like to hear it? Yi Song's handsome face became more serious. Guogua likes to hear it. I'll tell you every night in the future. I've been busy with the factory for the past 2 years and neglected you. The system laughed. Neglected you? Was it because he couldn't wait to carry his wife on his back and put her in his pocket day and night? He didn't even take his eyes off her. In the village, town, and county, who didn't know where Director Song went? Other than going to the toilet, he had to take his little wife with him. If one said that his little wife was a vase, then it would be a big mistake. Like Director Song, she wasn't easy to fool. Someone wanted to use her as a breakthrough point, but in the end, they went for wool and came home shorn. Anyway, this couple was jackals of the same tribe. It wasn't easy to fool them. especially the director's wife, who was beautiful. When talking to her, one wouldn't even realize that they were being fooled. In the end, they wouldn't even know that they were being sold. However, her face, which was as beautiful as a flower, was very deceptive. Their eyes were sparkling, and they looked at you with a smile. Even if you knew that it was a trap, you couldn't control yourself and unknowingly fell into the trap. Listen. If Director Song is in the mood to talk about love, I will definitely listen. Then, Tangwa listened to Director Song's vulgar words of love the whole night. She especially regretted saying those words. I want to change the current situation in the village. The current village chief was Tangwa's elder brother, Tang Tianyu. On this day, Yisong and Tang Tianyu had a discussion and decided to start a renovation of the village. It was the hard work of everyone in the village that made it this far. Now that their lives were better, they had to remember the source of their drinking water. If they wanted to be rich, everyone would be rich together. This was the long-term plan. He believed that the capable and talented people in the village did not need to stay in the factory all the time. They could develop their strengths and work in various fields. Now was a good time. As long as he was willing to work hard, he would definitely not lose out. Everyone in the village was called over. When they heard Yisong say that he wanted to change the current situation in the village, they were all a little dumbfounded. They felt that their village was already very good, and now, everyone was envious of them. Chapter 588. First of all, I want to set up a school in the village. There are more and more people in our village, and there are more and more children. We have to go to town to attend school. The roads are slippery in the rain, and the journey is long. The children are still young, and the adults are worried about letting them go by themselves. Actually, there was another situation. He realized that the people in the village did not pay much attention to education. Many children, especially the girls in the village, were not allowed to go to school. Some of them reluctantly went to the first grade and came back. He felt that if he wanted to change, he had to learn more knowledge and culture. From the beginning, Yisong's purpose was not just to make money and give his wife a rich life. The reason why he stayed in Family Tang Village was because he wanted to change this place after he felt a sense of belonging. Change was not only in terms of the economy, but also in terms of its origins. These newly grown children were the future hope of Family Tang Village. Only when they received a good education could they make Family Tang Village stronger. All the children who are registered in the village and are from the families of Tangkor can receive free education in the village school. He had already reported the matter of the school a long time ago. With his money and the support of Tang Shogwa, the mayor, and the county magistrate, there was no problem at all. Now, the person who wanted Family Tang Village to do well the most was the county magistrate who had a bright future. As long as Yisong did something that was beneficial to the village's performance, he would do his best to support him. This young man was like a koi fish to him. He had to take good care of him. Moreover, everything Yisong did was beneficial to the country and the people. Even if he had some selfish motives, no one would use it against him. If he could make the village's future bright without using any other means, only a fool would not support him. I plan to build a primary school and set up a preschool. All the children in the village who can walk can be placed in the preschool. This way, the adults can rest assured, and they can also give their children early education. Tangwa stood at the side and looked at the high-spirited man with a smile. Such an outstanding person was too dazzling. He was really covered with a halo. Wherever he went, he would be able to light up the place. As for the teachers in the school, I have already contacted the educated youths who have returned from our village. Most of them have expressed their willingness to come to our Family Tang Village to be teachers and settle down. The villagers all rolled their eyes. Only fools would refuse. Everyone wanted to come to Family Tang Village now. If it was someone else who wanted to set up a school and let all the children in the village go to school, the villagers might not agree. However, this person was Yisong. Even if he said that the sun was very bright today and it was going to rain, they would think that it was the truth. When he said that the children needed to be educated, the villagers all nodded. The children did need to go to school. In addition to the preschool and primary school, I also plan to open an adult class in the school. There will be regular classes every day. If anyone needs it, they can come and learn. This was also one of Yisong's goals. Many of the villagers were uncultured, but they were smart. They always felt that something was missing. When using people, it was inevitable that there would be awkward situations. He intended to use this method to solve this problem. However, this required everyone to be willing. His free conditions and opportunities were all for those who were willing to work hard. Tangwa found that when the news was announced, there was a lot of discussion among the villagers. Many of the villagers' eyes were shining, as if they were looking forward to the adult class. Chapter 589. Yi Song's school was very successful. In the past few years, many houses had been gradually built in the village. There were also staff dormitories around the factory. The school could not be built in a short time, so he first set aside a part of the staff dormitories to be used as classrooms. At this time, there were not many people, but it was still enough. Unexpectedly, the adult class was the most popular. Moreover, the most enthusiastic were not the men in the village, but the women in the village. They all flocked to the class. In the end, the teachers of the adult class discussed and arranged the daily curriculum. They posted it outside in advance. If the villagers needed to learn anything, they would come according to the time. Only then did the awkward situation from before be resolved. Not long after, the educated youths who had passed the exam came to Family Tang Village. They came from all the major cities with bags of various sizes and were travel-worn. What they saw was not the small village in the past. Instead, it was clean and tidy. Every family had built beautiful houses. There were also beautiful small courtyards outside the houses. In the words of the outside world, these independent small courtyards could be considered villas. The roads in the village were also very smooth. When they walked in, they all thought that they had come to the wrong place. This was clearly a paradise. Tang Tianyu personally received them and temporarily arranged for all the teachers to stay in the dormitory. The next day, Yisong personally went to meet them and signed a contract. According to the years of the contract, Yisong assigned them houses. Those who were willing to stay in Family Tang Village, he even gave them houses. The educated youths who came back almost all chose to stay in Family Tang Village without hesitation. As for the teacher of the preschool, she was also an educated youth college student. She was a gentle female college student who looked very beautiful when she smiled. In addition, 2 life teachers were arranged. They were selected from the women in the village and were specially chosen to treat the naughty children. The school was on the right track just like that. With the development, more and more people came to Family Tang Village, and the village was gradually expanding. Yisong was thinking about how to plan the development of Family Tang Village to benefit the future. At this time, Tangwa gave him a stack of blueprints. What is this? Tangwa hugged Yisong's arm. Yisong took the opportunity to hold his little wife in his arms while looking at the drawings. When he saw the comprehensive building drawings, he almost couldn't help but stand up directly. This wasn't an architectural drawing of a building. It was clearly a construction drawing of a city. Not only was it a comprehensive drawing, but there was also a distribution map of every detail. Where were the greenery? Where were the streets? Where were the commercial buildings? Where were the residential buildings? Where were the shopping malls? And where were the shopping malls? The drawing was quite detailed, and every detail was shocking. Even if such a city was not built, Yisong could see the prosperity of the future from this blueprint. He's really something. He couldn't help but hug her and kiss her. Guagua, you're so outstanding. He flipped through all the blueprints and realized that the Family Tang Village could be slowly developed according to the blueprints. There would not be any problems. He must have married a treasure to solve all the problems he was currently facing. All this while, he had been thinking about how to develop Family Tang Village. Didn't he have it now? If he didn't expand, Family Tang Village could only be Family Tang Village. Once he expanded, it would be different. After confirming his goal, Yisong got busy again. Of course, no matter how busy he was, he would not forget to hold his little wife by his side wherever he went. Chapter 590. A few smart people in the village crazily absorbed knowledge from the adult class and gradually became the most useful people under Yisong. The more they learned, the more they understood, and the more they saw Yisong's ambition. After being speechless for a while, they just followed Yisong. The people in Family Tang Village realized that there were more and more people in their village, and the village was getting bigger and bigger. One day, they realized that there were more buildings in their village than in the town. It was equivalent to half the number of buildings in the county. But no one said anything, not even the county magistrate. Every time he thought of Yisong and Family Tang Village, he would sit in his office chair with a smile and think about when he would be promoted. 2 years later, Family Tang Village was bigger than the town. The county magistrate was also promoted to mayor, and the original deputy county magistrate became the county magistrate. Many people thought that the mayor's relationship with Tang Shogwa had drifted apart. Not long after, they received news that Family Tang Village had become Tang County. The county magistrate was Tang Shogwa, and the original mayor was Tang Tianyu. Family Tang Village now, there was no Family Tang Village, only Tang County. However, the place where the village was located was still called Tang Village. However, this village did not represent a village. It was just a place name in Tang County. How could a Tang County not have a middle school and high school? In Tangwa's blueprint, there was a plan for a school. When the city was built, the middle school and high school had already been built. Now, they just had to wait for the school to successfully apply. Of course, the speed was very fast. From then on, there were schools from small preschool to Tang County High School. But everyone realized that the development of Tang County was still continuing. Its expansion speed was still not slowing down, and the economy was still steadily rising. And in the original Family Tang Village, every family had built beautiful villas. The surrounding mountains were all rented by Yisong. A part of it was used for farming and chicken farms, and a part of it was developed into a paradise. Family Tang Village people would go to the back to enjoy life when they were free. At this time, Yisong had started to slow down. It wasn't that he didn't want it to be fast. It was just that the economic development and the development of Tang County couldn't be too fast. Many things had to be done step by step and steadily. Tangwa now remembers that all the buildings in the entire Tang County were built by her family. She laughs even when she is asleep. Dear host, you two are really ambitious. It's okay. It's just Tang County. Didn't the country build it in the past? It's just one county. The system was a little depressed. That's right. It seemed to be the case. It was just a county. What was there to be excited about? It was really getting worse and worse. The system felt that it still needed to experience a lot more before it could reach the level of its host, who was able to remain calm and collected no matter what happened. It wanted to learn from its host. Now that Yisong and Tangwa were free, Luo Chuanli appeared again. Guogua, you have been married for 6 years. You are already 24 years old. Luo Chuanli looked distressed. Your 2 brothers' children are going to kindergarten soon. Daughter, it's time to have a child. Her son-in-law was becoming more and more outstanding, but her daughter was still not giving birth to a child. Her heart was still in turmoil. The system sympathized with Luo Chuanli. It was destined that there would be no results from having a child. Luo Chuanli saw that she couldn't persuade Tangwa and thought that there was something wrong with her. She insisted on dragging her for a checkup. Naturally, the results were normal. After that, she encouraged Tang Shogwa to drag Yisong for a checkup. Of course, the results were normal. Mom, see? This is fate. There is nothing wrong with my body. Don't worry about the child. Chapter 591. Sigh. Luo Chuanli was depressed. How could she not be worried? She interacted with those ladies every day and talked about her grandchildren every day. Her son-in-law was too outstanding. Such a legendary figure was always the topic of discussion. As they talked about the fact that they did not have children. Everyone was worried about her. Actually, she was also very worried. At this time, most people thought that after getting married, they had to have children. If they did not have children, it would be a terrible thing. Tangwa did not intend to correct Luo Chuanli's thinking. It was deeply ingrained in her and was not easy to change. Cooperating with Luo Chuanli for the checkup was also to reassure her, lest she suspected that there was something wrong with her and Yisong's bodies. Now that she knew that there was nothing wrong with her body and that she did not have children, Luo Chuanli could only blame it on fate. But she thought of those ladies saying that when a man's status was high and he was rich, there would be more women around him. Who knew how many women were eyeing her precious son-in-law? How could she not be worried? She was even worried about Tang Shogwa. Some time ago, She saw a young lady throwing flirtatious glances at Tang Shogwa. Fortunately, Tang Shogwa did not have such thoughts. Otherwise, even if the other party was a county magistrate, she would have broken the other party's legs. Mom, did you hear something? Tangwa looked at Luo Chuanli's uneasy face and asked, who said something to you? She did not have much contact with those ladies. There was no need to, and it was a waste of time. If she had the time, she would rather go to the back of the mountain with her Yi. Guogua, Mom is just worried. Xiao Yi is so outstanding, and there are so many people eyeing him outside. If you don't have children, who knows what will happen? The vixens will definitely have thoughts. Tangwa understood Luo Chuanli's worries, but she was not worried. Yi doesn't dare. Sigh. Her daughter was so confident. But when she saw her daughter's beautiful face, even as a mother, she would be mesmerized after looking at it for a long time. It seemed that those vixens were not as accurate as her precious daughter. Mom, who told you? Luo Chuanli answered truthfully. Many people were saying that when I had a gathering with some people from Family Tang Village recently, Ding Yuzhen even specially told me about it. Ding Yuzhen. Tangwa narrowed her eyes. Wasn't she Ding Yuzhen's mother? It was worth mentioning that Chen Fangfang, who was 22 years old this year, was still unmarried. Back then, it was because Xie Jun was unwilling to give up. Now, it was because Family Tang Village had become Tang County. Originally, the people in Family Tang Village were all rich and their status had risen. She was dazzled by the selection and looked down on many outstanding elites. Moreover, the times were more liberal now. It was no longer a big deal for a 22-year-old to not get married. Luo Chuanli's expression turned slightly ugly. Ding Yuzhen also said that if you don't have a child, many people will target Xiao Yi. Speaking up to this point, she spat. That Chen Fangfang, do you remember? When I met her previously, she was especially warm to me. I thought that this little girl was sensible and knew how to respect others. But in the end, she was actually asking about Xiao Yi. Guogua, don't you understand what this little vixen is thinking? This was the problem that Luo Chuanli was worried about. She was not afraid of Yisong's intentions, but she was afraid of the various vixens outside. Even if he did not succeed, he would still get himself into trouble. Chapter 592. Chen Fangfang is asking about Yi? Tangwa almost spat out. Was there something wrong with this girl's brain? First, she wanted to steal her sister's fiancé, and now she dared to provoke her? Did she think that she was easy to provoke if she did not lose her temper? Isn't that so? Luo Chuanli counted some of the things that she had encountered recently. They were all very strange. All of them were young girls who were indirectly asking about Tangwa and Yisong. Anyone could tell what they were trying to do. In most people's eyes, with Yisong's status, even if Tangwa was the daughter of the Tang County magistrate, she would still be criticized for not having a child. If Yisong wanted to change his wife, no one would say anything bad about him. Tangwa was speechless after hearing this. Mom, don't worry. As long as they dare to come up, I will leave a very deep impression on them. They will be traumatized when they hear my name in the future. Luo Chuanli was amused. Thinking of the love between her daughter and son-in-law, she was not so worried. But it was the situation outside that made her a little flustered. After Luo Chuanli went back, Tangwa had not even warmed up her seat when Chen Fangfang came to her door, saying that she wanted to play with her. When Tangwa saw Chen Fangfang, who was dressed to the nines, she was instantly amused. Good girl, she still dared to come to her door directly. Was she trying to save the country through indirect means? Was she planning to become best friends with her first, and then find a chance to make her a cuckold? How naive. Tangwa stopped smiling. When she heard Chen Fangfang asking about Yisong, she said, Why are you asking about this? I'm just asking. Sister Village Belle, is brother-in-law coming back today? Chen Fangfang asked eagerly as she glanced outside. Tangwa suspected that there was something wrong with her IQ. She had never seen someone who wanted to be a mistress so obviously. The system could not help but hear the words, Sister Village Belle. Only Chen Fangfang could say that. You have something to say to Yi? Yes, I have something to say. Chen Fangfang's face lit up. I have something to say to brother-in-law alone. Sister Village Belle, you won't be so petty to disagree, right? Tangwa. She smiled. I am petty. I won't agree. Chen Fongfong was a little. Why was it different from what she imagined? In her opinion, she would not have the nerve to refuse. As long as she met Yi Song alone, she would definitely be able to achieve her goal. All these years, no matter how she looked at it, Yi Song was the most outstanding man in her life. It's a pity that she's already married. However, this isn't important. The two of them have been married for 6 years and still haven't had a child. There must be a problem with Tanghua. She, Chen Fongfong, was not as pretty as Tanghua, but she was healthy and could give birth. Yi Song would not reject a woman who could give birth to his child, right? Not. Is. Sister Siyuan Hua, I just have something very important to tell brother-in-law. Don't be so stingy. Tanghua raised her eyebrows. Everyone knows that if anyone has something important to say to Yi, I have the right to know. Just say it. Chen Fongfong's face was a little ugly. This was the truth. She did not understand what Yi Song liked about Tanghua. He listened to her in everything. It really made people jealous. This Tanghua was as annoying as her elder sister whom she had not heard from for a few years. She was just going to see him, not eat him. She was so petty. If you don't say it, I have to see you out. Tanghua was not in the mood to chat with the mistress. Seeing Chen Fongfong's hesitant look, she was impatient. Don't, village, Chen Fongfong. Sister Village Bell? Chapter 593. Chen Fongfong didn't understand why Tanghua suddenly called her by her full name with a cold expression, but she was a little scared. Tanghua's lips curled up slightly. I hope you can put away those thoughts in your heart. As for what thoughts, if you really provoke me, you won't be able to survive in Tang County anymore. Chen Fongfong couldn't laugh anymore. She opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but when she saw Tanghua's faint smile, cold sweat inexplicably appeared on her back. A chill invaded her heart, making her have the urge to run away immediately. She wasn't afraid of Chening, and even dared to fight with Chening. She was really a little scared of this petite and fair village belle in front of her. Sister Village Belle, what are you talking about? I don't have any thoughts. Tanghua gently raised her eyebrows. It's best if you don't. Chen Fongfong couldn't stay here any longer. She felt that this village belle was not to be trifled with. She was much scarier than her fierce elder sister. Although she didn't know what the consequences would be, she subconsciously felt that it wouldn't be a good outcome. She hurriedly said goodbye to Tanghua and didn't mention Yi Song. She turned around and left. She looked like she was running away, as if something terrible was chasing after her. After Yi Song came back from the back of the mountain to see the chickens in the chicken farm, he saw that there was still a cup of tea left at home. He asked, "There's a guest at home." Chen Fongfong. Tanghua leaned on the sofa and looked at the black and white TV. For someone like her who had seen all kinds of flowers, this kind of black and white TV was really not rare. However, in this era, there was no entertainment for the time being. There was only one more sound wherever she put it. What is she doing here? Yi Song walked over and hugged his little wife. His guagua was always fragrant and soft. He couldn't bear to let go of her when he hugged her. He had just left for a while, but he felt that they had been separated for a long time. He really couldn't bear to leave her for even half a minute. Tanghua looked up with a smile and said, "She said she's looking for Yi." Yi Song subconsciously felt that his guagua's expression was not right. Chen Fongfong and he were not familiar with each other, and they didn't have any business cooperation. Looking for him was definitely not a good thing. "What do you want from me?" he asked. Tanghua chuckled. "What else could it be? She's taken a fancy to Yi." Nonsense. Yi Song was afraid that his wife would misunderstand, so he quickly pulled her into his arms. "Guagua, don't listen to those people's nonsense. You're the only one in my heart. You're the only one in my eyes." I know. Tanghua was amused by this man's nervousness. She quickly hugged him to comfort him. Yi is so outstanding that all the women in Tang County are attracted to him. Yi Song was a little troubled. He didn't care what those women thought. He was afraid that those women would have a bad influence on his guagua. "Yi, don't worry. I'll beat up all the people who want you like this." Tanghua smiled and said, "As long as they dare to come, I'll beat them up." I guarantee that they'll be traumatized for the rest of their lives when they think of me." Yi Song was amused. Guogua did not seem to be affected by those people, so he was relieved. "Yi, it's been so many years. Do you plan to go back and take a look?" Tangwa suddenly remembered that Yi Song had only exchanged letters with his sister all these years. The rest of the family seemed to have disappeared. Chapter 594. Actually, I do plan to go back and take a look. Yi Song was silent for a while and said, "No matter what, I have to go back and see Big Sister." After she got into university, she chose to go abroad. Now she's back with her boyfriend. She mentioned that she's going to get married soon. The only thing he was hesitant about was that he was afraid that Guogua would be bullied. It was not that he could not protect her, but with those people's faces, he was afraid that they would hurt her unintentionally. "Then go back and take a look. I've read the letter. Although Big Sister did not mention that you have to go back for her wedding, she must be looking forward to seeing her brother witness her wedding." Not long after they got married, Yi Song told Tangwa about his family's situation. During that turbulent era, Yi Song's father chose to divorce his mother because of some special issues. Not long after, Yi Song's mother died of illness. His father quickly married another woman and used that woman's family background to do well. Now, he did not know. Back then, Yi Song and his sister Song Qing went to the countryside. Yi Song chose to come to the family Tang village, a remote and secluded place. He asked his family to pull some strings so that his sister would not go so far. At that time, the Song family had a total of 4 children. Besides Song Qing and Yi Song, there was also the stepmother's son and daughter. Their family had 2 places to go to the countryside. Logically speaking, one of Song Qing and Yi Song should be able to stay at home. But with their family's complicated situation, only the 2 of them could go to the countryside. From the fact that Yi Song did not choose to go back to Beijing and Song Qing chose to go abroad to study after she got into university, it was clear that the 2 siblings did not have much affection for the Song family. They might have suffered a lot in the past. Then go back and take a look. Didn't you say that you're sending your livestock and planting technicians to Beijing to study? Yi Song thought for a while and said, "Okay. No matter what, it was time to go back and take a look. I want to go back and see Grandpa too." Yi Song's grandfather suffered a lot in that turbulence. Fortunately, he was rehabilitated later. Many years ago, his mother died early. The Song family did not let him and his sister have any contact with his grandfather's family, so they did not have any way to contact him. The university that Song Qing got into was not one in Beijing, but somewhere else. Later, she did not want to go back to the Song family and went abroad. There was no news from his grandfather. Yi Song had been busy all these years and had not thought of this. He felt a little guilty about it. All the more reason to go back. If Grandpa is willing, why don't you bring him to Tang County? Yi Song smiled and pinched his wife's face. He was a little touched. "Okay, if he's willing, he can come to our Tang County in the future. Grandpa will definitely like Guogua very much." When the family Tang people heard that Yi Song was bringing their baby back to Beijing, all of them came back. They stared at Yi Song as if warning him that he was not allowed to let his family bully their baby. Even his little nephew, who was only 5 years old, had a tense expression on his face as he said very seriously, "Young master, you have to protect my little aunt well." "Of course I will protect Guogua." "Okay, then you can take my little aunt back." The young nephew puffed out his chest and said, "If little aunt comes back and says that she has been wronged, young master, I want to duel with you." The child's joke made everyone present burst into laughter. It also reminded them of Yi Song's character. Based on how he treated Tangwa, he would not allow anyone to bully her. Chapter 595. Just like that, Yi Song brought his wife and a group of technical staff to the capital in a hurry. Originally, these technical staff were quite interested in the legendary capital of the capital. Tang County was developing so well, but it was just a newly promoted county. A big city like the capital should develop better and be more prosperous. After entering the capital, except for Yi Song and Tangwa, the rest of the people looked at each other with disappointment in their eyes. The capital was big, and there were many people. Everything seemed to be thriving, but for some reason, They thought that Tang County looked much better, especially the buildings in Tang County. The streets and business plans were all very complete. They looked neat and new. Although it was small, the appearance of the city was indeed much more fashionable than that of Jing City. Whether it was the clothes of the people, the various shops on the street, or the things sold, the capital really couldn't compare to Tang County. Of course, the ancient charm of the capital and the accumulation of history were also incomparable to Tang County. Speaking of which, each had its own advantages. After Yisong arranged all the technical staff, he took Tang Gua to a small hotel and found a place to send a telegram to Song Qing. The two of them had dinner and waited in the hotel. Not long after, someone knocked on the door and said that someone was looking for them. It should be Big Sister. Yisong looked at himself in the mirror and felt that there was nothing wrong with him. He opened the door and went down holding Tang Gua's hand. When they walked out of the hotel, they saw a man and a woman. The woman was beautiful and elegant. She was wearing a very fashionable coat in this era, a plain scarf, a wine-red top hat, and black high-heeled leather shoes. The man standing beside her was handsome and elegant. He was wearing glasses. The two of them looked very compatible. Sister. The moment Yisong saw Song Qing, he almost called out subconsciously. Tang Gua's hand was held by Yisong. She could feel the excitement of the man beside her. She also called out and didn't interrupt. Hey. The moment Song Qing saw Yisong, she couldn't hold back her tears. Her eyes were instantly filled with tears. She blinked hard and raised her head, trying to hold back her tears. Unfortunately, the tears didn't seem to listen to her and dripped down. The man beside her quickly took out a tissue and gently wiped her tears. Shouldn't you be happy to see your brother? I'm happy. Song Qing glared at the man who laughed at her. Aren't you so happy that you're crying? After saying that, she pushed the man away and hugged Yisong. Tang Gua tactfully let go of Yisong's hand to give the two siblings some time to be together. Song Qing still couldn't hold back. She hugged Yisong and cried for a few minutes. Finally, she realized that there was a very beautiful lady staring at her. She quickly let go of Yisong and walked to Tang Gua. You must be Gua Gua. Hello. Guo Guo Guo. Song Qing excitedly held Tang Gua's hand. Her eyes read, Thank you for being so good to Little Yi and letting Little Yi find his home in that unfamiliar place. She put Tang Gua's hand back into Yisong's hand. She had noticed just now that the relationship between the couple was very good. This is your brother-in-law. His name is Li Fan, a professor at Beijing University. We met abroad. Song Qing introduced them and quickly invited the two of them to get into the car. The car was driven by Li Fan. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.